What if everything you think you know about Lilith is a lie? What if she isn't a demon, but a symbol of untamed female power? And what if her true story was deliberately buried, twisted to control the feminine divine? What secrets do forgotten texts whisper of Lilith's dawn? Lilith's story stretches back into the mists of time, her roots entwined with the earliest myths of Mesopotamia. We find echoes of her in the Epic of Gilgamesh, a tale as old as civilization itself, as a figure lurking in the sacred Hullapu tree. The alphabet of Ben Sira, a medieval Jewish text, presents a radically different creation narrative, portraying Lilith not as a subservient partner, but as Adam's equal, created in the same way, from the same dust. The prevailing image, however, is far more sinister. Lilith, the demonic seductress, the child-snatching night hag, a figure of terror lurking in the shadows. But is that the whole story? Today, we embark on a journey to explore alternative interpretations of Lilith, drawing upon ancient texts, scholarly research, and modern feminist perspectives to paint a more complete picture. Lilith is a divisive figure, evoking strong opinions, fears, and fascination. It's important to acknowledge that going in, the problem lies in the patriarchal bias that has shaped so much of our religious and mythological narratives, resulting in the demonization of powerful female figures like Lilith. By daring to question these narratives, we can reclaim marginalized voices, foster a more balanced understanding of history, and perhaps most importantly, understand ourselves. As a symbol, Lilith represents female autonomy, sexual liberation, and a fierce refusal to be subjugated. Might Lilith then be a catalyst for personal transformation, an invitation to embrace our shadow selves and challenge the oppressive norms of society? Truly understanding Lilith helps us break free from limiting structures and connect with the power of the suppressed feminine divine. The thesis of this video is this: Lilith has been unfairly demonized, and her complex story vastly simplified. Her true power and purpose have been intentionally obscured by patriarchal forces seeking to suppress female autonomy and spiritual strength. We will explore her true history to reclaim her image. So let's begin by delving into Lilith's ancient Mesopotamian origins. Then we will trace her evolution through Jewish folklore and Kabbalah, after which we will examine her modern interpretations and discuss her role as a symbol of female empowerment. Open your mind as we explore Lilith, ready to discover the truth. Let's uncover her ancient origins. Let us begin by exploring Lilith's most ancient roots, for it is in these primordial myths that we find the seeds of her complex and often contradictory character. The name Lilith likely comes from Sumerian, Akkadian, or Hebrew words such as Lilitu or Lilu, all associated with wind, night, or a screeching cry, suggesting a connection to the untamed forces of nature. But what if this association was deliberately crafted to instill fear? To truly understand Lilith, we must first immerse ourselves in the broader context of Mesopotamian demonology. Figures like Lamashtu, a fearsome demoness who preyed on pregnant women and infants, and Pazuzu, a winged demon with a grotesque face who could offer protection against evil, demonstrate the nuanced and often ambiguous nature of these ancient beings. These demons were not necessarily seen as purely evil entities, but rather as powerful forces that could be both benevolent and malevolent, depending on the circumstances and the rituals performed. Is it possible that Lilith, too, was once viewed in a similar light, before her image was irrevocably tarnished? Within this context, Lilith was likely associated with storms, dangerous winds, and night terrors, embodying the unpredictable and often destructive aspects of the natural world, or perhaps she was a misunderstood goddess. But here's a question that should be explored. What role did women play in Mesopotamian society? Consider the possibility that suppressed Sumerian and Akkadian texts may have portrayed Lilith in a significantly different light, revealing her true role in society and her original relationship with the divine. Open loop. What secrets do the suppressed texts hold? Texts that may have been deliberately hidden, altered, or destroyed to consolidate patriarchal power and erase alternative narratives. What if Lilith was not always a demon, but a priestess or goddess whose story was rewritten to fit a new religious and social order? These questions that we must keep in mind as we continue our journey into the shadows of history. One of the most striking images that may be linked to Lilith is the Burney relief, also known as the Queen of the Night relief, dating back to ancient Mesopotamia, perhaps offering us a glimpse into an early version of Lilith or a related demoness. This hauntingly beautiful terracotta plaque depicts a nude, winged woman with bird-like feet, adorned with symbols of power and dominion, flanked by owls, creatures of the night, and standing atop two lions, representing strength and authority. But is this a depiction of a fearsome demon or something far more complex? The Burney relief has been interpreted in various ways, with some scholars suggesting it represents a goddess, a demoness, or perhaps a combination of both, embodying the duality of female power and the inherent ambiguity of the divine feminine. The lions, owls, and wings can be seen as symbols of power, darkness, and freedom, representing Lilith's ability to navigate the unseen realms and command the forces of nature. Is this the depiction of a monster or misunderstood goddess? Incantations and amulets were used to ward off Lilith and other female demons, particularly during childbirth, offering protection to women and newborn infants, illustrating the deep-seated fear and reverence associated with female power, particularly the power to create life. People feared her power during childbirth, which is why they created amulets to keep her away, but it may also represent the struggle that women had to deal with during that era. Female fertility was often viewed with suspicion and anxiety, as cultures struggled to control and contain the mysteries of creation. What rituals were performed to appease Lilith or to harness her power for benevolent purposes? What are the true rites and powers of Lilithian magic? Were there secret societies or cults dedicated to her worship, preserving ancient knowledge and traditions that have been lost to time? These lost rituals may be a key aspect to understanding the ancient world. Now let's explore Lilith's appearance in Jewish folklore, primarily in the alphabet of Ben Sira, a medieval text with controversial content that is not considered part of the Jewish canon, yet offers a fascinating and alternative perspective on the creation story. This is where Lilith truly comes into her own as a figure of rebellion and female empowerment. But why was this story excluded from the canon? The alphabet of Ben Sira presents the story of Lilith's creation, stating that she was created at the same time and from the same earth as Adam, asserting her equality from the very beginning. She was not molded from his rib, but born of the same divine essence, challenging the patriarchal notion of male dominance and female subservience. Lilith challenges the authority, but why has that become a point of contention in modern society? The conflict between Lilith and Adam arises when Lilith refuses to be subservient during intercourse, declaring, "We are equal, for we both are from the earth," leading to her departure from Eden and her transformation into a demonic figure. She demanded equality and rejected patriarchal dominance, refusing to conform to Adam's expectations and asserting her right to sexual autonomy and personal freedom. Was this the ultimate sin in the eyes of a patriarchal society? As a consequence of Lilith's departure, she becomes a demon who preys on newborn babies, seeking revenge for her mistreatment and embodying the rage and frustration of a woman scorned. However, is this a literal depiction of a child-snatching demon or a symbolic representation of the societal consequences of female rebellion and the demonization of female anger? Remember that women are demonized for being angry. Is this how we are seeing Lilith? The story of Lilith and Adam can be analyzed as a reflection of patriarchal anxieties about female autonomy and sexual agency, a cautionary tale designed to reinforce traditional gender roles and suppress female rebellion. Demonizing her was a way to control women by portraying her as a monstrous figure, a threat to the established order, and a warning to those who dared to challenge male authority. Is this another example of women being shamed by society for displaying sexual prowess? But consider this. Lilith's story might be seen as empowering, particularly for women who feel marginalized or oppressed by patriarchal structures, offering a powerful symbol of resistance and a reminder that they are not alone in their struggle for equality and self-determination. Lilith is paving the way to being a feminist icon, a figure who embodies the strength, independence, and unyielding spirit of the feminine divine, encouraging women to embrace their own power and reject the limitations imposed upon them by society. What will we see when we explore Lilith as a symbol of female empowerment? But Lilith's story takes an even more complex turn, for it does not end with feminist interpretations. Let us now explore how the esoteric tradition of Kabbalah transforms Lilith from a rebellious figure into a powerful force within the very fabric of creation. Kabbalah, a mystical tradition rooted in Judaism, seeks to understand the hidden aspects of God and the universe through symbolism, numerology, and esoteric knowledge. It is a path of inner exploration, where the seeker attempts to ascend through the various levels of consciousness to attain a deeper understanding of the divine. Within this complex framework, Lilith is not merely a demoness, but a significant, albeit controversial, figure whose existence sheds light on the darker aspects of the cosmos. But why would Kabbalah view Lilith in a different light? Kabbalistic texts, particularly those within the Zoharic tradition, present Lilith as the first wife of Adam, created before Eve. According to these accounts, Lilith was created not from Adam's rib, but from the same earth as him, mirroring the earlier accounts in the alphabet of Ben Sira, and asserting her inherent equality. Yet unlike the feminist interpretations, Kabbalah emphasizes the consequences of Lilith's rebellion, stating that after leaving Adam, she spawned demonic offspring, populating the world with creatures of chaos and darkness. But are these offspring truly evil, or do they represent something more complex? What are the true natures of those offspring, and what role do they play in the cosmic drama? Open loop, what secrets do the suppressed texts hold? To understand Lilith's role in Kabbalah, it is essential to understand the Kabbalistic tree of life, a complex diagram that serves as a map of the divine realm and the human psyche. The tree of life consists of 10 sephirot, or divine emanations, each representing a different aspect of God's attributes, ranging from Kether, the crown at the top, representing pure divine consciousness, to Malkuth, the kingdom, at the bottom, representing the realm of earthly manifestation. In stark contrast to the Sephirot are the Qliphoth, often translated as shells or husks, which represent the negative forces, imbalances, and distorted aspects of the divine emanations. Lilith is primarily associated with these Qliphoth, the dark side of the tree of life. But why is she associated with this dark side? The Qliphoth represent chaos, imbalance, and the shadow self, the unacknowledged and often repressed aspects of the human psyche. They are the forces that challenge the divine order and tempt individuals away from the path of righteousness. But at the same time, they also represent the potential for growth, transformation, and deeper understanding. Just as a tree needs strong roots to grow, the Sephirot need the Qliphoth to provide the necessary tension and resistance for spiritual evolution. Lilith, in this context, becomes a catalyst for change, a force that disrupts the status quo and compels us to confront our own inner darkness. Lilith is also connected to the Sitra Ara, the other side or realm of evil in Kabbalistic cosmology. The Sitra Ara is not simply a place of punishment or torment, but a powerful force of disruption and rebellion against the divine order. It is the realm of the unmanifest, the unformed, and the potential for chaos that exists alongside the forces of creation. Lilith, as a queen of this realm, embodies the untamed and chaotic aspects of the feminine divine, challenging the patriarchal order and asserting her own power. Furthermore, Lilith is associated with the Malkuth Qlipha, sometimes called the Lilith Qlipha, which is directly connected to the realm of earthly manifestation. This association suggests that Lilith's influence is not limited to the spiritual or demonic realms, but extends into our everyday lives, shaping our experiences, desires, and relationships. She is not simply a distant figure of myth, but a present and active force in the world. What are the ways to tap into that power, and what would it entail? Open loop. What are the true rights and powers of Lilithian magic? This association of Lilith to the LILITH connects to the demonization of female sexuality and the fear of the feminine divine that we discussed earlier. By associating Lilith with the LILITH, Kabbalistic texts reflect a deeper understanding of the duality of existence, where darkness and light are intertwined, and where the feminine is both revered and feared. What happens when one embraces the darker side of the feminine divine? Analyzing Lilith's role in Kabbalah, we can see her as a symbol of the shadow self, those unconscious aspects of the personality that are often repressed or denied. She embodies repressed desires, untamed emotions, and rebellious impulses, all those things that we often try to hide from ourselves and from the world. In this view, Lilith is not something to be feared or rejected, but something to be understood and integrated. But how can we integrate this shadow self? Confronting Lilith within ourselves can lead to greater self-awareness, personal integration, and empowerment. By acknowledging our darker aspects, we can gain a more complete understanding of ourselves and our motivations, allowing us to make more conscious choices and live more authentic lives. This relates directly to Jungian psychology, which emphasizes the importance of integrating the shadow self for psychological wholeness. Jung believed that the shadow contains not only negative qualities, but also untapped potential and creativity, which is important to understand about Lilith. She can be a catalyst for transformation, encouraging individuals to embrace their darker aspects and challenge societal norms, ultimately freeing themselves from the constraints of convention and expectation. Ultimately, Lilith is a reminder that true power comes from accepting all aspects of ourselves, not just the light. By embracing our shadows, we can become more whole, more powerful, and more truly ourselves. Is Lilith a key to unlocking the shadow self? In synthesizing the various interpretations of Lilith, from Mesopotamian demoness to Kabbalistic force to feminist icon, we begin to grasp her complexity and enduring appeal. From being Adam's first wife to becoming the queen of demons, her story has resonated across cultures and centuries. The thesis remains that Lilith has been unfairly demonized, and her story is inextricably linked to the suppression of female autonomy and the rejection of the feminine divine. Next, we will look at modern interpretations of Lilith and her continued relevance in contemporary culture. From being Adam's first wife to becoming the queen of demons, her story has resonated across cultures and centuries. But Lilith's journey does not conclude with Kabbalistic symbolism. From shadow self to feminist icon, Lilith's transformation continues, as she is reclaimed in modern contexts as a symbol of female empowerment and resistance to patriarchal oppression. What is it about this demonized figure that allows such a radical shift in perception? Modern feminists often view Lilith as a potent symbol of female autonomy, independence, and unwavering resistance to patriarchal structures. In a world where traditional gender roles often confine women to positions of subservience and obedience, Lilith's defiance resonates deeply with those seeking to break free from societal constraints. Her story becomes a rallying cry for self-determination, encouraging women to embrace their own power and reject the limitations imposed upon them by patriarchal norms. Her very image becomes a statement of liberation, a rejection of the passive roles often assigned to women in religious and mythological narratives. In essence, she represents freedom from the shackles of societal expectation. But how did a figure so long demonized become such a powerful symbol of liberation? The term feminist icon itself carries significant weight, representing a figure whose actions, beliefs, or representations challenge and subvert traditional power dynamics, and Lilith undoubtedly embodies this spirit. Her refusal to obey Adam, her insistence on equality, and her ultimate departure from the Garden of Eden can be seen as acts of rebellion against male dominance and the imposition of hierarchical structures. This defiance, regardless of its consequences in traditional narratives, is precisely what makes her such a compelling figure for modern feminists. She is not merely a symbol of female empowerment, but a symbol of the courage to challenge authority, to question the status quo, and to assert one's own agency in the face of opposition. Is this why she was demonized? Because of her strength? Feminists often interpret Lilith's departure from Adam as a courageous act of self-assertion, a refusal to compromise her own autonomy for the sake of conformity or societal expectations. Rather than accepting a subordinate role, she chose to forge her own path, even if it meant exile and demonization. This act of defiance is seen as a powerful statement against male dominance and the patriarchal systems that seek to control and suppress female agency. Viewing her departure in this light, Lilith becomes an inspiration for women to stand up for themselves, to assert their own needs and desires, and to refuse to be silenced or marginalized. If we can see her departure as an act of self-preservation, can we truly condemn her? This modern reclamation of Lilith serves to empower women, providing a narrative framework for breaking free from oppressive structures and embracing their own inner strength. It encourages women to question traditional roles, to challenge patriarchal norms, and to create their own identities and destinies. Lilith's story becomes a source of inspiration for self-discovery, encouraging women to embrace their sexuality, their ambition, and their independence without apology or shame. Moreover, by reclaiming Lilith, feminists challenge the very foundations of patriarchal narratives, exposing the biases and prejudices that have historically marginalized and demonized female figures. But is there a darker side to embracing this figure? Moreover, by referencing the Kabbalistic interpretations, we are further validating the act of embracing one's shadow self, as we mentioned earlier. By embracing our darker aspects, as Lilith embodies, we can gain a more complete understanding of ourselves and our motivations. As we've seen, Lilith becomes a catalyst for transformation, encouraging individuals to embrace their darker aspects and challenge societal norms, ultimately freeing themselves from the constraints of convention and expectation. But Lilith's influence extends beyond feminist circles. The narrative of Lilith has permeated modern literature and art, where she appears as a muse of rebellion, inspiring artists and authors to explore themes of female rage, sexuality, and the struggle for equality. How do these artistic and literary representations challenge the traditional demonization of Lilith? Numerous modern authors have reinterpreted Lilith's story, casting her as a complex and sympathetic figure who defies patriarchal norms and embodies female empowerment. Authors like Barbara Black-Koltov in her book Lilith, First Eve, or even Sean Pike in The Lost Queen have written books to reclaim her name. These works often explore Lilith's motivations, her inner struggles, and her ultimate triumph over adversity, offering a nuanced and empowering perspective on a character who has long been relegated to the margins of mythology. In these narratives, Lilith is not simply a demoness, but a strong, independent woman who challenges the established order and asserts her own agency, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. But how accurate are these more modern tales? These works of fiction and poetry portray Lilith as a strong, independent woman who challenges patriarchal norms, exploring themes of female rage, sexuality, and the struggle for equality. In Tanith Lay's Lilith's Dream, for example, Lilith is depicted as a powerful and sensual figure who reclaims her sexuality and defies the attempts of men to control her. Similarly, in contemporary poetry, Lilith is often invoked as a symbol of female empowerment, a muse for those who seek to challenge the status quo and assert their own voices. These artistic representations serve to challenge the traditional demonization of Lilith, offering alternative narratives that celebrate female strength, independence, and self-expression. Do these stories hold a grain of truth, or are they merely romanticized fantasies? Lilith's image has also been reclaimed in modern art, where she is often depicted as a powerful and sensual figure who embodies female sexuality and challenges traditional notions of beauty and femininity. Artists often portray Lilith in a way that reclaims female sexuality, rejecting the notion that female desire is inherently sinful or dangerous. Instead, they celebrate the beauty and power of the female body, presenting Lilith as a symbol of self-acceptance and sexual liberation. We see this with the surge of Lilith art, especially with the rise of AI art that allows people to push boundaries further and make uncensored works to pay homage to her story. Moreover, these artistic and literary representations serve to challenge the traditional demonization of Lilith, offering alternative narratives that celebrate female strength, independence, and self-expression. They provide a counterpoint to the patriarchal narratives that have historically portrayed Lilith as a monstrous figure, instead presenting her as a symbol of female empowerment, rebellion, and self-discovery. By challenging these traditional narratives, artists and authors invite us to reconsider our own assumptions about female sexuality, power, and autonomy. But could these interpretations be influencing more than just art and literature? Is there a connection to a secret society of Lilithian artists working to reclaim her image and spread her message through their creations? Open loop. What secrets do the suppressed texts hold? Turning our gaze to contemporary spiritual practices, we find that Lilith has been embraced within modern witchcraft and neo-paganism as a goddess of female empowerment, sexuality, and shadow work, further solidifying her place as a figure of rebellion and self-discovery. But what does it mean to invoke Lilith in a spiritual context? In modern witchcraft and neo-paganism, Lilith is often revered as a goddess of female empowerment, sexuality, and shadow work, representing the untamed and independent aspects of the feminine divine. She is seen as a powerful ally for those who seek to connect with their own inner power, embrace their sexuality, and confront their shadow selves. Practitioners of modern witchcraft often invoke Lilith in rituals and spells aimed at reclaiming female agency, breaking free from patriarchal constraints, and embracing their own unique identities. Lilith's popularity in these practices marks a significant departure from traditional religious views, where she is often demonized as a figure of evil and seduction. Practitioners of modern witchcraft invoke Lilith to connect with their own inner power, embrace their sexuality, and confront their shadow selves, seeking guidance and inspiration from this powerful goddess. By working with Lilith, individuals can tap into their own hidden reserves of strength, challenge limiting beliefs, and embrace their authentic selves. She becomes a source of courage and inspiration for those who seek to break free from societal expectations and live life on their own terms. In this light, Lilith is not merely a figure of myth, but a powerful force for personal transformation. Is this a safe and advisable practice for everyone? While we cannot explicitly detail these rites, for ethical reasons, many rituals and practices associated with Lilith in modern witchcraft focus on reclaiming female agency, embracing sexuality, and confronting the shadow self. These rituals often involve meditation, visualization, and the use of symbolic imagery to connect with Lilith's energy and invoke her presence. Practitioners may also create altars dedicated to Lilith, adorned with symbols such as black candles, red wine, and representations of the moon. What is the true nature of these rituals, and what powers do they seek to unlock? Moreover, Lilith's imagery and symbolism are often used in spells and meditations aimed at reclaiming female agency and breaking free from patriarchal constraints. Spells may be cast to break free from abusive relationships, to assert one's own needs and desires, or to challenge societal expectations. Meditations may be practiced to connect with Lilith's energy, to embrace one's own sexuality, or to confront and integrate the shadow self. This integration is a key aspect to shadow work, as we have mentioned before, allowing us to come to terms with our darker side. By connecting this to the shadow self discussion, we find that shadow work allows one to embrace their dark side. She embodies repressed desires, untamed emotions, and rebellious impulses, all those things that we often try to hide from ourselves and from the world. In this view, Lilith is not something to be feared or rejected, but something to be understood and integrated. So what are the risks involved in invoking Lilith? What dangers might lurk in the shadows for those who seek her power? Open loop. What are the true rights and powers of Lilithian magic? Analyzing Lilith's enduring appeal, we find that her story resonates deeply with individuals who feel marginalized, oppressed, or misunderstood by mainstream society, particularly in modern feminist and spiritual contexts. But what accounts for this resurgence of interest in a figure once relegated to the fringes of mythology? Lilith's story resonates with individuals who feel marginalized, oppressed, or misunderstood by mainstream society. She offers a sense of solidarity and validation for those who have been silenced, ignored, or demonized for challenging the status quo. Her example provides a powerful model for standing up for oneself, asserting one's own needs and desires, and refusing to be defined by societal expectations. This is especially helpful for women, as Lilith represents a symbol of female empowerment. Moreover, Lilith offers a powerful alternative to traditional female archetypes, providing a model for female strength, independence, and self-assertion. Unlike the passive and submissive female figures often found in mythology and religion, Lilith embodies agency, rebellion, and self-determination. She is not a damsel in distress, waiting to be rescued by a male hero, but a powerful force in her own right, capable of shaping her own destiny, offering a role model for female strength and breaking free of traditional constraints. In many ways, she resonates with the current social and political climate. Connecting this to Jungian psychology and the integration of the shadow self, we can see Lilith's modern worship as a healing experience or a step in the right direction. As Jung elucidated, confronting Lilith within ourselves can lead to greater self-awareness, personal integration, and empowerment. By acknowledging our darker aspects, we can gain a more complete understanding of ourselves and our motivations, allowing us to make more conscious choices and live more authentic lives. This allows for the ability to come to terms with the darker aspects of being a human. Ultimately, it is important to challenge patriarchal narratives and reclaim marginalized voices, promoting a more balanced and inclusive understanding of history and mythology. By reclaiming the stories of figures like Lilith, we can challenge the biases and prejudices that have historically marginalized and demonized women and create a more equitable and just society. By looking at new ideas, we can promote a much-needed sense of balance within society. As we reach the end of this exploration, let us recap the journey we have undertaken, tracing Lilith's evolution from Mesopotamian demoness to Kabbalistic force to feminist icon. We have seen how her story has been shaped by cultural, religious, and social forces, and how she has been interpreted and reinterpreted across centuries. The exploration shows she is more than a demon, more than a monster, but instead a symbol of female empowerment, autonomy, and rebellion. But what are we to make of such a multifaceted figure? What lasting lessons can we draw from the story of Lilith? But what are we to make of such a multifaceted figure? What lasting lessons can we draw from the story of Lilith? Lilith is not alone in her struggle against demonization. As we turn our gaze from the individual to the collective, let us explore Lilith's connection to the broader concept of the divine feminine, a force that has been both revered and reviled throughout history. The divine feminine, in its essence, represents the feminine aspect of the divine, a counterpart to the masculine principle that is often emphasized in patriarchal religions. This concept manifests in various forms across cultures and religions, from the nurturing mother goddesses of ancient civilizations to the wise and compassionate figures of Eastern traditions. The divine feminine embodies qualities such as intuition, empathy, creativity, and receptivity, offering a balance to the more assertive and rational aspects of the masculine divine. However, patriarchal societies have often sought to suppress or demonize the divine feminine, leading to an imbalance in spiritual and cultural values. This suppression is not merely a historical phenomenon, but a persistent pattern that continues to shape our world today. How has this deliberate repression shaped not only our spiritual traditions, but also our perceptions of women in society? Lilith, in this context, can be seen as a powerful symbol of the suppressed divine feminine, a figure who challenges the patriarchal dominance of traditional religious narratives and reclaims the power and autonomy of the feminine principle. Her refusal to submit to Adam, her assertion of equality, and her embrace of her own sexuality all represent a rejection of the limitations imposed upon women by patriarchal structures. She becomes a representative of the untamed, unapologetic feminine, a force that cannot be controlled or contained by societal norms. But Lilith is not the sole embodiment of this suppressed feminine power. Figures like Inanna, Ishtar, Kali, and Sophia also embody aspects of the divine feminine, representing different facets of female strength, wisdom, and spiritual authority. Why have so many powerful female figures been relegated to the margins of religious and mythological narratives? Moreover, the divine feminine finds expression in modern spiritual movements such as Wicca, where the concept of the triple goddess maiden, mother, and crone celebrates the cyclical nature of female life and the diverse roles that women play in society. The maiden represents innocence, potential, and new beginnings. The mother embodies nurturing, creativity, and the fullness of life. And the crone symbolizes wisdom, transformation, and the acceptance of death and rebirth. By embracing these different aspects of the divine feminine, Wiccans seek to restore balance to the spiritual realm and to empower women to embrace their own unique identities and destinies. But how can we reconcile these modern interpretations with the historical demonization of female figures like Lilith? Are they two sides of the same coin? Turning our attention to historical demonization, we find numerous examples of female figures who have been vilified or demonized for challenging male authority or embodying female power, connecting directly back to the symbolism of Lilith. These examples offer a sobering reminder of the ways in which patriarchal societies have sought to control and suppress women's bodies, minds, and spirits. What patterns emerge when we examine these historical cases through the lens of gender dynamics and power structures? The witch hunts of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance stand as a stark example of this phenomenon, highlighting how women were often accused of witchcraft for possessing knowledge, independence, or unconventional behavior. These accusations were often fueled by fear and suspicion of female power, as well as a desire to control women's sexuality and reproductive capabilities. Women who possessed knowledge of herbal medicine, midwifery, or other forms of healing were particularly vulnerable, as their expertise was seen as a threat to the established medical order. As many as 80% of those killed during witch hunts were women, highlighting the scale of female demonization. This suppression of female healers and midwives connects directly to Lilith's association with childbirth and her demonization as a child snatcher, suggesting that this was a way to control female fertility and reproductive power. By portraying Lilith as a threat to newborns, patriarchal societies sought to instill fear and distrust of female agency in matters of reproduction. This control over female fertility was essential for maintaining social order and ensuring the continuation of male lineage. But this desire to control women's bodies and minds extends far beyond the historical witch hunts. Can we see echoes of this patriarchal control in modern medical systems and societal expectations surrounding childbirth? Open loop. What secrets do the suppressed texts hold? Ultimately, these historical examples reflect a broader pattern of patriarchal oppression and the demonization of female agency. By portraying women as inherently evil, dangerous, or irrational, patriarchal societies sought to justify their subjugation and marginalization. This pattern continues to manifest in various forms today, from the perpetuation of harmful stereotypes to the denial of women's reproductive rights. What steps can we take to break free from these deeply ingrained patterns of patriarchal oppression and create a more equitable and just society? Turning our gaze to alternative interpretations, Gnosticism offers a different lens through which to view Lilith, challenging the traditional demonization and presenting her as a more complex and even sympathetic figure. But what is Gnosticism, and how does it differ from orthodox religious views? Gnosticism, as a mystical tradition, offers alternative interpretations of biblical narratives that often challenge orthodox views and shed new light on marginalized figures like Lilith. While Gnostic beliefs vary widely, a common thread is the idea that the material world is created by an imperfect or even malevolent deity, known as the demiurge, and that true spiritual liberation comes from attaining secret knowledge or gnosis. In this context, Lilith is not simply a demoness, but a being who possesses unique spiritual insights and rejects the limitations of the physical world. Does this imply that Lilith actually sought enlightenment? Some Gnostic myths suggest that Lilith was created before Adam and was a more spiritually advanced being, refusing to be confined by the limitations of the physical world. This portrayal stands in stark contrast to the traditional view of Lilith as a rebellious and disobedient wife. In Gnostic narratives, Lilith's refusal to submit to Adam is seen as an act of spiritual autonomy, a rejection of earthly constraints in favor of a higher calling. She becomes a symbol of spiritual independence, challenging the notion that women must be subservient to men in order to achieve spiritual fulfillment. Is this, then, a feminist origin story of sorts? Indeed, some Gnostic texts link Lilith to the divine feminine figure of Sophia, who represents divine wisdom and is often seen as a co-creator of the universe. This connection suggests that Lilith is not merely a demonic figure, but a manifestation of divine wisdom and creative power. She becomes an embodiment of the feminine principle that is essential for spiritual growth and enlightenment. Connecting this back to shadow self-work, we see that Lilith in Gnosticism is aligned with the goal of spiritual enlightenment and liberation from the material world, a path that involves confronting and integrating our own darker aspects. Is it possible that Gnostic interpretations of Lilithian magic offer a path to enlightenment, a secret tradition passed down through the ages? Open loop, what are the true rights and powers of Lilithian magic? Synthesizing these various interpretations, we see that Lilith is not a simple figure, but a multifaceted symbol whose meaning has evolved over time. From demon to feminist icon to Gnostic figure, Lilith embodies a range of qualities and represents different aspects of the human experience. But what is the common thread that connects these diverse interpretations? Ultimately, Lilith serves as a mirror, reflecting our own fears, desires, and cultural biases. She is a blank canvas onto which we project our anxieties about female power, sexuality, and rebellion. By confronting Lilith, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Moreover, by engaging with her story, we can challenge simplistic narratives and embrace complexity in our understanding of history, mythology, and spirituality. To continue to simply paint her as a demon would be a massive disservice. And so, as we approach the conclusion of this exploration, we are left with a final question. What will you do with this newfound understanding of Lilith? How will you apply these insights to your own life and your own understanding of the world? How can we harness Lilith's energy in a practical, responsible way? Lilith's story, while rich in symbolism and historical intrigue, is most potent when it translates into tangible change in our lives. It's time to move beyond theoretical discussions of demonization and the divine feminine, and instead explore how we can actively integrate Lilithian energy into our daily existence to foster empowerment, creativity, and shadow integration. Many approach working with Lilith with trepidation, worried about unleashing uncontrollable forces or attracting unwanted consequences. And so, we must address these concerns to ensure safe and ethical practices. Therefore, in this section, we will focus on practical exercises and real-life examples of harnessing Lilithian energy for personal growth, while explicitly excluding harmful practices or manipulation, driving home a core theme. Lilith isn't inherently bad. She's inherently powerful, and that power can be channeled for good. But what does Lilithian energy actually mean in a practical context, and how can we differentiate it from simplistic demonization or negative stereotypes that have plagued her image for centuries? In practice, Lilithian energy manifests as the courage to embrace your shadow self, to assert personal boundaries without apology, and to reclaim your power by taking control of your life and destiny. Embracing the shadow self involves accepting and integrating the darker, often suppressed, aspects of one's personality, recognizing that these traits are not inherently evil, but are simply parts of ourselves that we have disowned. Asserting personal boundaries means saying no to demands that drain your energy or compromise your values, standing up for your needs and desires with confidence and clarity. Reclaiming one's power entails taking responsibility for your choices and actions, refusing to be a victim of circumstance or the whims of others, and actively shaping your own future. These aspects aren't just abstract ideals. They are actionable steps that can lead to profound personal transformation, and they are deeply rooted in psychological concepts like self-acceptance, assertiveness, and agency. This energy is about self-empowerment and not about dominating or harming others. It's important to remember that Lilithian energy resides within all of us, regardless of gender, and is accessible to anyone who seeks to cultivate their inner strength and autonomy. As Carl Jung elucidated, true individuation requires integrating the shadow self, and in that sense, Lilithian energy is simply about becoming a whole person. Now let's expand on these concepts with some practical exercises you can incorporate into your daily life. How can Lilithian energy be applied in everyday life? Let us consider concrete examples, starting with relationships and boundaries. Imagine a scenario where you consistently feel drained and resentful after interacting with a particular person, perhaps a friend or family member who frequently demands your time and energy without reciprocating. To set healthy boundaries in this relationship, you might begin by role-playing assertive responses to their requests, visualizing yourself calmly and confidently saying no without feeling guilty or obligated to provide lengthy explanations. You could also practice scripting assertive responses in a journal, writing out exactly what you want to say and how you want to say it, rehearsing the conversation in your mind until you feel comfortable and prepared. Another common area to apply Lilithian energy is through creative expression, and this can take many forms, from art and music to writing and dance. If you feel stifled or suppressed in your creative endeavors, perhaps due to fear of judgment or self-doubt, you can begin by exploring taboo subjects in your art, allowing yourself to express emotions and ideas that you might normally censor. Journaling prompts can be helpful in this regard, such as, "What am I afraid to express?" or "What aspects of myself do I keep hidden?" Free-form expression, without any concern for outcome or perfection, can also be a powerful way to unlock your creative potential. Let your emotions flow freely onto the canvas, the page, or the dance floor, without judgment or restraint. Another powerful application is shadow work through journaling, therapy, or meditation, which allows one to confront and integrate the shadow self. Shadow work prompts, such as "What are my deepest fears?" or "What aspects of myself do I dislike the most?" can help you to identify and explore the darker aspects of your personality. Dream analysis, in which you record and interpret your dreams, can also provide valuable insights into your shadow self, revealing hidden emotions and unresolved conflicts. Guided meditations, focused on accepting and integrating your shadow, can help you to cultivate self-compassion and inner peace. It must be said, of course, that engaging in shadow work can be difficult and caution should be observed. Finally, let us turn to overcoming fear and self-doubt by embracing your inner strength. If you struggle with fear and self-doubt, constantly second-guessing your abilities and potential, you can begin by practicing affirmations, repeating positive statements about yourself and your capabilities. Visualization techniques, in which you vividly imagine yourself succeeding in your goals, can also help to boost your confidence and overcome limiting beliefs. You might visualize yourself confidently giving a presentation, successfully completing a challenging project, or fearlessly pursuing your dreams. But these applications are about empowerment and self-actualization, not about harming others or engaging in unethical behavior. Let's not forget autonomy and rebellion. Consider, for example, the story of a young woman named Sarah, who had always been taught to be docile and obedient, constantly putting the needs of others before her own. After learning about Lilith, Sarah began to question these ingrained beliefs and to assert her own needs and desires. She started by setting boundaries with her overbearing mother, refusing to participate in activities that drained her energy or compromised her values. She also began to express her creativity through writing, exploring taboo subjects and expressing emotions that she had previously suppressed. As Sarah embraced her Lilithian energy, she gained a newfound sense of self-confidence and autonomy, breaking free from the oppressive structures that had held her back for so long. But consider a counterexample, Mark, who misinterpreted the concept of Lilithian energy as a license to dominate and manipulate others. Mark used assertive communication techniques to bully and intimidate his coworkers, justifying his behavior as reclaiming his power. He also engaged in reckless and impulsive behavior, disregarding the consequences of his actions and harming those around him. Mark's story serves as a cautionary tale, highlighting the importance of ethical considerations when working with Lilithian energy. It is a tool for empowerment, not for abuse, and it is essential to use it responsibly and with respect for others. And what of the forbidden knowledge we mentioned earlier? Are these tools the same the world over? Are there rites and rituals we do not know of? Open loop. What are the true rights and powers of Lilithian magic? Ultimately, the practical applications of Lilithian energy challenge traditional notions of power, reframing it as inner strength, self-acceptance, and authentic expression. True power, it turns out, comes from embracing all aspects of oneself, not from dominating or controlling others. Lilith, in this context, becomes more than just a figure from ancient lore, becoming a symbol of female empowerment, highlighting her rejection of patriarchal dominance and her insistence on equality. By reclaiming their inner power, individuals can create positive change in their lives and the world around them. One boundary, one creative expression, one act of self-acceptance at a time. It's not about seeking external validation or approval, but about cultivating self-love and self-respect, and we must be aware of the self as we journey into magic. With this in mind, what about the importance of self-awareness and ethical considerations when working with Lilithian energy, and where might that lead us? Now that we've begun to understand how to channel Lilith's energy for personal transformation, a crucial question arises. Can shadow work, particularly when involving such potent forces, go too far? For while embracing our shadow selves and reclaiming personal power can be profoundly liberating, it's imperative to approach this journey with both caution and a deep sense of responsibility. The uncritical embrace of negative emotions, destructive impulses, or the darker aspects of our nature can lead down paths fraught with peril, potentially harming ourselves and others, and so it's important that we tread lightly. The line between self-acceptance and harmful behavior is not always clear, and navigating this complex terrain requires a well-developed sense of self-awareness and a commitment to establishing firm ethical boundaries. Too often, the allure of forbidden knowledge and the promise of unchecked power can blind us to the potential consequences of our actions, and we must always remember that with great power comes great responsibility. In the following sections, we will delve into the essential role of self-awareness in ethical shadow work, exploring practical exercises for cultivating inner wisdom and examining the nuances of establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries, always with an eye towards responsible and compassionate practice. But what exactly is self-awareness, and how does it serve as the bedrock for ethical conduct when engaging with the shadow self? Self-awareness, in this context, can be defined as the ability to recognize, understand, and accept one's own thoughts, feelings, motivations, and behaviors, especially as they relate to one's shadow aspects. And this understanding allows us to discern between healthy self-expression and potentially harmful actions. In other words, it is knowing what you are, what you feel, what makes you feel that way, and why. It is the key to understanding your own personal reactions. At its core, self-awareness involves several key components, each building upon the other, including identifying triggers, understanding motivations, recognizing patterns, and accepting responsibility. Identifying triggers involves recognizing the specific people, places, situations, or internal thoughts that tend to elicit negative emotions or destructive impulses. And this awareness allows us to anticipate and manage our reactions more effectively. Understanding motivations requires examining the underlying reasons for our thoughts, feelings, and actions, delving into the unconscious desires, fears, and beliefs that drive our behavior, so that we might alter them in a way that benefits us. Recognizing patterns involves identifying recurring behaviors or thought patterns that contribute to negative outcomes, whether it's a tendency to lash out in anger, to withdraw into isolation, or to engage in self-destructive habits. Accepting responsibility entails acknowledging our role in creating or perpetuating problems, rather than blaming others or external circumstances, and this is the crucial step towards taking ownership of our lives and making conscious choices. These are all ideas that we come to understand through meditation. Open loop. What are the true rights and powers of Lilithian magic? These components of self-awareness are closely related to psychological concepts like emotional intelligence, introspection, and accountability, all of which emphasize the importance of understanding and managing our own emotions, reflecting on our experiences, and taking responsibility for our actions. But perhaps most importantly, self-awareness is not a static endpoint, but an ongoing process, requiring constant reflection, self-evaluation, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves, for learning about ourselves never ends. So how can we begin to cultivate self-awareness in our own shadow work practices? One of the most effective tools for cultivating self-awareness is journaling, the practice of writing about one's thoughts, feelings, and experiences to identify patterns and triggers. Journaling prompts can be particularly helpful in this regard, such as, what situations make me feel angry, jealous, or fearful? What are my common coping mechanisms? Or what aspects of myself do I dislike the most? For these prompts can help you to uncover hidden emotions and unresolved conflicts. Mindfulness meditation is another powerful tool, involving paying attention to the present moment without judgment, observing one's thoughts and emotions as they arise and pass away, allowing for a deeper understanding of your true self. Body scan meditation, breath awareness meditation, and other similar exercises can help to cultivate this present moment awareness. It can be an invaluable tool for those struggling with self-awareness. Seeking feedback from trusted sources, such as friends, family members, or therapists, can also provide valuable insights into one's behavior and patterns, for those around us often see things that we ourselves cannot. Honest feedback can be difficult to hear, but it can be incredibly helpful in identifying blind spots and unconscious biases. Ask your friends, what are my strengths and weaknesses, or what behaviors do you find concerning, but remember to proceed with caution, as not all feedback is created equal. Analyzing dreams can provide insights as well, for they reflect our unconscious. Dream journaling, in which you record and interpret your dreams, is one way to analyze them. Through these practices, we gain the clarity and insight needed to make more conscious and ethical choices in our lives. But how does self-awareness translate into establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries? As Carl Jung elucidated, this self-awareness can help the subject come to terms with childhood trauma and the negative effects it has on their lives. Ultimately, the establishment and maintenance of ethical boundaries in shadow work hinges on the foundation of self-awareness, and it is knowing oneself that creates better boundaries. Ethical boundaries are essential for protecting oneself and others from harm, preventing the misuse of power, and fostering healthy, respectful relationships. However, it is important to distinguish between healthy and unhealthy boundaries, and this requires a nuanced understanding of one's own needs, desires, and limitations, as well as a deep respect for the autonomy and agency of others. Respect for others is important, and manipulation can harm you and the other person. Examples of ethical boundaries in personal relationships include respecting others' boundaries, avoiding manipulation or coercion, and being honest and transparent in communication. In creative expression, ethical boundaries might involve exploring taboo subjects responsibly, avoiding the exploitation or harm of others, and being mindful of the potential impact of one's work on audiences. And in spiritual practices, ethical boundaries might entail respecting the beliefs and practices of others, avoiding the appropriation of cultural traditions, and being mindful of the potential for harm or exploitation within spiritual communities. But these frameworks are all rooted in ethical frameworks like the Golden Rule and the principle of non-maleficence, reminding us to treat others as we would wish to be treated and to avoid causing harm. As we navigate the complex ethical dilemmas that arise in shadow work, it is essential to seek guidance from trusted sources, whether it's therapists, mentors, ethical guidelines, or our own inner wisdom. It's not always possible to know what the right decision is, and the forbidden knowledge we are seeking can be difficult to handle, so always use caution. So with these ethical boundaries now established, where does this leave us in understanding Lilith's power? Now that you've perhaps begun to master the personal side of shadow work, Lilith's influence extends far beyond just personal growth. She holds the potential to reshape societal norms and power dynamics, and the question becomes, can this hard-won knowledge of shadow work be aimed at broader societal issues as well? The answer is a resounding yes, provided we proceed with awareness and responsibility. For the true alchemical process isn't solely about transmuting lead into gold within ourselves. It's about catalyzing transformation in the world around us, using the energies we've learned to harness for the greater good. Collective action, however, desperately needs that individual power to truly change the world. But change will not come easily, and you'll need strength, for societal transformation requires collective action, fueled by individual empowerment and, critically, a strong ethical awareness. We must, however, acknowledge the very real challenges and complexities of using Lilithian energy for societal change, including the inevitable resistance from established power structures and the potential for unintended consequences. Let us be clear and define our scope explicitly. This section will focus on harnessing Lilithian energy to promote positive social change, explicitly excluding any recourse to violence, oppression, or discrimination. What we are concerned with here is the application of Lilith as a force for empowerment and liberation. Always remember that empowerment builds a better world. So with that in mind, how do we begin to redefine societal norms through the lens of Lilithian energy? Societal norms are so often based on patriarchal values that systematically suppress female agency, sexuality, and spiritual expression. And it is this same suppression that leads to the demonization we have seen in historical texts. Let's break down some of the key societal norms that can be challenged and ultimately transformed through the application of Lilithian energy. Consider first the traditional notions of gender roles. With Lilith as our guide, we can actively promote gender fluidity, challenging those traditional expectations of masculinity and femininity that have, for far too long, confined individuals within rigid and artificial boxes. This entails recognizing that gender is fluid. It is not fixed and immutable. Consider next the realm of sexual morality, where Lilith's influence can be particularly transformative. By embracing sexual freedom and pleasure, and by actively rejecting the shame and guilt so often associated with female sexuality, we can reclaim our bodies and our desires as our own. Sex positivity can overcome past guilt. And in the realm of spiritual authority, Lilith invites us to challenge religious dogma and to embark on our own individual spiritual explorations and self-discoveries, to become our own authorities. You can lead your own spiritual journey. And finally, in the sphere of power structures, Lilith emboldens us to dismantle oppressive systems and to promote equality, justice, and inclusivity for all. Now, how might these transformations manifest in practice? What concrete examples can we point to? Consider the power of art, music, and literature. By creating works that celebrate female power, sexuality, and rebellion, we can challenge traditional narratives and inspire others to embrace their own authentic selves. Art, music, and literature that reclaims female power can have a profound effect on the collective consciousness. Or what about organizing protests, demonstrations, or campaigns that advocate for gender equality, reproductive rights, and LGBTQ rights? Bringing awareness to these issues can create a ripple effect that transforms individuals, communities, and even entire societies. Supporting female-owned businesses, artists, and entrepreneurs is another powerful way to enact change, for it promotes economic empowerment and challenges the traditional dominance of patriarchal structures. All of these actions can come together to transform into powerful social justice movements, pushing for a more equitable and compassionate world. But to bring this down to earth, what are some practical applications of these ideas? What concrete exercises can we undertake to channel Lilithian energy towards societal transformation? Let's start with the creative realm. Consider creating a Lilith-inspired art project that directly challenges traditional gender roles or boldly celebrates female sexuality. Prompts for this could include painting, sculpture, poetry, or music. For example, create art to express inner feelings and emotions that have long been suppressed by societal norms. Or consider the power of collective action. Gather in large groups to protest reproductive rights. Seek out local events and amplify the cause. Or for a more personal approach, record a podcast about reclaiming female power and delve into taboo subjects related to female sexuality, spirituality, or power. Provide prompts for content creation and tips for building an audience. As always, be aware and alert to your surroundings when protesting or volunteering. Remember, change is a collaborative effort that can challenge beliefs. But in any case, stay safe when volunteering. All of these actions are informed by a deep ethical framework, and so, as always, be ethical and responsible. Now, to put all of this in perspective, here are examples of these actions changing people's lives. Here's an example of what happens when people co-opt Lilith for evil to reiterate the importance of using the energy for societal transformation. The key is to avoid the pitfall of appropriating Lilithian energy for personal gain, or worse, for malevolent purposes, for such actions ultimately undermine the very principles of empowerment and liberation that Lilith represents. As we've discussed, it's so important to be responsible. Can any viewers speak on their experience with these energies? This leads us to an important and obvious question. What happens when we all work together? Let's analyze how the collective use of Lilithian energy can amplify its impact, creating a ripple effect that transforms individuals, communities, and societies. The power of collective empowerment cannot be overstated. Societal transformation requires a profound shift in consciousness, where individuals recognize their interconnectedness and embrace their shared responsibility for creating a better world. We are all connected and must work together for a better world. And this, ultimately, is where the divine feminine comes into play, for by reclaiming the divine feminine and challenging patriarchal norms, we can create a more equitable, compassionate, and ultimately, a sustainable society. Bringing a balance with the divine feminine helps promote a compassionate society. It is not a solo effort, but a group effort. Always remember, ongoing learning, reflection, and adaptation are essential when working with Lilithian energy for societal change. Learn from the change and stay ethical. What undiscovered potential could future research reveal about Lilith's power? Now that you've begun to harness Lilith's energy for societal change, have you considered how to sustain that empowerment long-term? It's a question many overlook, falling into the trap of believing that Lilithian empowerment is a one-time event, a singular burst of rebellious energy, rather than the ongoing process that it truly is. The mistake here is that initial enthusiasm can easily wane, and the challenges of enacting real change can feel overwhelming. We must move beyond sporadic activism and fleeting shadow work to cultivate a deep, long-term commitment to Lilithian principles. In this section, we will focus on the practical strategies for integrating these principles into your daily life, for ensuring sustained personal growth and driving meaningful societal transformation. Our scope is explicitly defined. We will explore realistic expectations, continuous learning, and consistent self-evaluation. We explicitly exclude complacency, stagnation, or the rigidity of dogmatic thinking, for these are the enemies of true progress. Remember, true change is not a destination to be reached, but a journey to be embraced, and it is this journey that defines us. What then does Lilithian dedication truly mean in a practical, day-to-day context? It's more than sporadic acts of rebellion or occasional forays into shadow work. It's a fundamental shift in perspective, a conscious choice to align your life with Lilithian values. Let's break down its key aspects. First, it's about sustained effort over short bursts of activity. The most profound transformations rarely occur overnight. The power of consistent action, even in small increments, compounds over time, creating lasting change far more effectively than fleeting moments of intense effort. Second, Lilithian dedication is about integration into daily life. It involves making conscious choices, large and small, that reflect Lilithian values in all aspects of living, from your relationships to your career to your spiritual practice. Finally, it means embracing constant change, recognizing that the journey is dynamic, demanding ongoing adaptation and evolution. Rigidity is stagnation. Flexibility is growth. These aspects are intrinsically linked to concepts like perseverance, mindfulness, and authenticity. Lilithian dedication is a lifestyle choice, not a temporary trend or a superficial aesthetic. It's about constant growth, not achieving a final state of enlightenment or perfection. It's a process of continuous becoming, of always striving to embody Lilithian principles more fully. And here, perhaps, is a secret. Dedication is inextricably linked to passion. If your dedication feels like a chore, examine your passion, for the two must walk hand in hand. But here's what most people miss. Sustaining this dedication requires practical application. We can't simply rely on abstract principles or good intentions, and we must put them to the test. So how can Lilithian dedication be practically applied to sustain personal and societal transformation? Consider these concrete examples. Establishing a daily ritual that connects you with Lilithian energy through meditation, journaling, or creative expression. Prompts could include daily gratitude journaling, shadow self-meditations, or creative self-expression tasks such as painting, sculpting, or writing. But be warned, it is easy to become overly reliant on ritual. It should serve as a tool, not a crutch. Another example is joining a Lilithian community, connecting with like-minded individuals for support, guidance, and inspiration. Online forums, local groups, and workshops can provide invaluable resources and opportunities for collaboration. A word of caution, however, be discerning in your choice of communities, ensuring they are grounded in positive values. And what about pursuing ongoing education, deepening your understanding of Lilithian principles through books, articles, workshops, or mentorship programs? A wealth of resources is available, from ancient texts to modern feminist writings, from academic studies to practical guides. Again, though, be mindful of your resources, both financial and temporal. Knowledge should serve your practice, not become a substitute for it. Finally, consider the importance of practicing self-care, nurturing your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being to avoid burnout and maintain motivation. Practices such as yoga, meditation, spending time in nature, or engaging in creative pursuits can replenish your energy and keep you grounded. Remember, self-care is not a luxury, but a necessity, especially on a long-term journey. And so, with these examples, come practical actions. For each of these examples, try incorporating specific exercises or techniques into your daily routine, adapting them to your individual needs and circumstances. For instance, dedicate just 15 minutes each morning to a Lilith-inspired meditation, focusing on themes of empowerment, authenticity, or rebellion. Or join an online forum dedicated to Lilithian spirituality, participating in discussions and offering support to other members. But always, always be aware of the risks involved, especially in online communities. Protect your personal information and exercise caution when interacting with strangers. Here, we can draw inspiration from individuals who have successfully sustained their Lilithian dedication over many years. Individuals like Judith Plaskow, a theologian who has transformed Jewish feminist theology to inspire others to find power in the divine feminine. But we must also consider the counterexample, the cautionary tale of someone whose dedication waned, someone who initially embraced Lilithian principles with fervor, but eventually succumbed to complacency or disillusionment. Perhaps they became overwhelmed by the challenges of societal change, or perhaps they prioritized personal gain over collective empowerment. Whatever the reason, their initial spark faded, and they ultimately retreated from the path, and this is another reminder of the importance of balance. Do any viewers wish to share their own struggles with their dedication? Now, let's analyze how this sustained dedication amplifies its impact, creating a ripple effect that transforms individuals, communities, and ultimately societies. The power of sustained effort cannot be overstated. Societal transformation requires a fundamental shift in consciousness, where individuals recognize their interconnectedness and embrace their shared responsibility for creating a better world. By embodying Lilithian values, by challenging oppressive systems, by promoting equality and justice, and by reclaiming the divine feminine, we can collectively create a more equitable, compassionate, and sustainable society. A society where the voices of the marginalized are amplified and the power of the feminine is celebrated. Remember, Lilith is not about personal gain, but the gains of the entire world. Remember the forbidden aspects discussed earlier. Sustained dedication will push you to uncover those secrets and reveal them to the world. What undiscovered potential might future research reveal about Lilith's power when combined with sustained dedication? This leads us to the next question. How can we ensure that this dedication continues to evolve and adapt to meet the ever-changing needs of our world? Now that we've begun to integrate Lilithian principles into our daily lives and affect real change in the world, what about the parts of ourselves we'd rather not acknowledge? It's easy to champion rebellion and social justice, but far more challenging to confront the shadows that lurk within our own minds. We can easily fall into the trap of thinking that societal transformation is enough, that by changing the world out there, we can somehow avoid the messy, uncomfortable work of changing ourselves, of facing our own darkness, and this is a critical oversight. In this section, we will shift our focus from the external world to the internal landscape, and we will explore how we can use the archetype of Lilith as a tool for personal excavation. Our scope is sharply defined. We will focus on methods for safely and successfully connecting with your shadow self, understanding what to expect, and how to handle the process of integration. Crucially, we will explicitly exclude externalizing blame or embracing the notion that the shadow self is inherently evil, for it is neither. Remember, to truly know the light, we must also know the darkness that gives it definition, that gives it meaning. What then do we mean by shadow self, and why is it so important to confront? The term itself, popularized by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, refers to the aspects of our personality that we repress, deny, or reject. It's not the caricature of inherent wickedness, but the repository of all that we deem unacceptable about ourselves. Let's break down some of the key aspects. First, it's about the hidden or suppressed aspects of our being, traits, desires, and impulses that we deem undesirable and attempt to conceal from ourselves and others, and these are not always negative. They can be untapped talents or unacknowledged needs. Second, it encompasses primitive emotions, feelings like rage, jealousy, shame, and fear, emotions that society often deems negative or unacceptable, even though they are intrinsic parts of the human experience. Third, it holds untapped potential, hidden reserves of creativity, power, and authenticity that we have suppressed because of societal conditioning, fear of judgment, or past trauma. Finally, it consists of defense mechanisms, those psychological walls we erect to protect ourselves from pain, walls that, ironically, often imprison us and prevent genuine connection with ourselves and others. These aspects are intrinsically linked to psychological concepts like repression, projection, and the unconscious. The shadow self is formed through the process of repression, where we unconsciously push unacceptable thoughts, feelings, and impulses out of our conscious awareness. We then project these disowned qualities onto others, seeing in them what we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. All of these repressed emotions are stored inside of the unconscious. It is perfectly natural to have a shadow self. It is an intrinsic part of the human psyche. Your shadow self is as unique as your fingerprint, shaped by your individual experiences, traumas, and cultural conditioning. The question now becomes, how can we safely and effectively connect with this hidden part of ourselves? So, how can we begin to shine a light on our own shadow selves to bring these hidden aspects into conscious awareness? Consider these practical applications. Dream analysis, a powerful tool for accessing the unconscious mind and uncovering hidden meanings. Keep a dream journal, recording your dreams as soon as you wake up, and look for recurring themes, symbols, and emotions. What are the dominant feelings in your dreams? Who are the characters, and what do they represent? Remember, dreams often speak in symbolic language, so be open to interpretation. Consider the case of someone who consistently dreams of being chased by a shadowy figure. This could represent a repressed fear, a past trauma, or an unacknowledged aspect of their own personality that they are running from. Another example involves journaling and free writing, techniques that can unlock defense mechanisms and allow us to access suppressed thoughts and feelings. Set aside time each day to write whatever comes to mind, without censoring yourself or worrying about grammar or structure. Ask yourself probing questions. What am I afraid of? What do I secretly desire? What am I ashamed of? Don't be afraid to delve into uncomfortable emotions, for it is in these dark corners that we often find the most valuable insights. Another avenue is meditation and visualization, practices that can help us to visualize and even embrace our shadow selves. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and imagine yourself standing before a shadowy figure. What does it look like? What emotions does it evoke in you? Try to engage with it, to understand its story, its fears, and its desires. This can be a challenging process, but it can also be profoundly transformative. However, proceed with caution. If you experience overwhelming anxiety or distress, stop the exercise and seek guidance from a qualified therapist or spiritual advisor. Finally, consider creative expression, using art, music, dance, or writing to personify and befriend your shadow self. Draw a picture of the thing you fear the most, write a poem from its perspective, or compose a song that expresses its deepest emotions. Art can be a powerful tool for integrating the shadow, allowing us to externalize and process these hidden aspects of ourselves. Remember, there are always risks involved in shadow work, so proceed with caution and always prioritize your safety and well-being. For each of these examples, try incorporating specific exercises or techniques into your daily routine, adapting them to your individual needs and circumstances. Commit to journaling for just 15 minutes each day, exploring your fears, desires, and resentments. Or experiment with shadow work meditation, visualizing yourself confronting your darkest aspects with compassion and understanding. As always, proceed with caution and be mindful of your emotional state. Here we can draw inspiration from individuals who have successfully connected with their shadow selves, individuals like Carl Jung himself, who underwent a profound personal transformation through his exploration of the unconscious mind. Jung believed that by integrating our shadow selves, we can become more whole, more authentic, and more capable of living fulfilling lives. But we must also consider the counterexample, the cautionary tale of someone who misused shadow work, someone who used it as an excuse to indulge in harmful behaviors, justifying their actions by claiming they were simply expressing their shadow self. This is a dangerous misconception. Shadow work is not about unleashing our darkest impulses, but about understanding and integrating them in a healthy and responsible way. Join in and share your stories of shadow work. What methods do you prefer? Now, let's analyze how connecting with and integrating the shadow self can lead to personal growth, increased self-awareness, and greater authenticity. The key lies in recognizing that the shadow is not our enemy, but a valuable source of information about ourselves. By understanding our fears, desires, and repressed emotions, we can make conscious choices about how we want to live our lives, rather than being driven by unconscious impulses. Remember, integrating the shadow self is not about eliminating negative aspects, but about transforming them into positive forces. Carl Jung believed that our shadows hold untapped potential, hidden reserves of creativity, power, and authenticity. This connects directly to alchemical symbolism, where the transformation of base metals into gold represents the process of spiritual transformation and enlightenment. Indeed, by embracing our shadows, by confronting our fears and integrating our repressed emotions, we can unlock our full potential and become more complete, authentic human beings, not perfect, but whole. But remember, this is a lifelong journey of self-discovery, not a one-time event. The shadow is dynamic, constantly evolving as we encounter new experiences and challenges. As such, shadow work is an ongoing process, requiring consistent self-reflection, self-compassion, and a willingness to embrace our imperfections. So how does this all relate back to Lilith, societal transformation, and the reclaiming of the divine feminine? Ready to step into the Lilithian ritual chamber and experience a deeper connection with this powerful archetype? Rituals can seem intimidating, shrouded in mystery and misconception, especially when they involve a figure as controversial as Lilith. It's essential to approach these practices with respect, awareness, and a commitment to ethical principles, for ritual work, like shadow work, is not to be undertaken lightly. In this context, a ritual is a structured set of actions, symbols, and intentions designed to facilitate a focused connection with specific energies and archetypes, and not some arcane method of exerting control over the universe. In this section, we'll explore the core principles of Lilithian ritual, essential elements, and safe practices for personal exploration. Remember, the purpose of ritual is not to invoke external forces to control the world, but to empower ourselves. What if Lilith is calling you? Are there secret societies that practice Lilithian magic, guarding ancient rites and forbidden knowledge? To engage effectively with Lilithian ritual, we must first understand the fundamental principles that underpin its practice. These principles provide a framework for creating meaningful and transformative experiences. We begin with intention. You must have a clear and focused intention. What is the purpose of your ritual? What specific outcome or transformation do you seek? Is it to connect with your inner power, to explore your shadow self, or to embrace your sexuality? A focused will is the foundation of any successful ritual, and without it, your efforts will be scattered and ineffective. Next, symbolism. We will work with potent symbols like the sigil of Lilith. Lilith symbols are keys that unlock deeper levels of understanding and connection. The colors black and red, the owl, the serpent, the crescent moon, these are all potent symbols that evoke Lilithian energies. But do we truly grasp their significance? Understanding these symbols is extremely important in establishing a connection. Third, energy. Visualize and raise personal energy using emotion and focused intention. Lilithian ritual often involves raising and directing personal energy through focused intention, visualization, and emotional connection. This energy can be generated through chanting, drumming, dancing, or simply by focusing your will. How do we raise our energy? Through raw emotion and pure intention. Fourth, connection. Intimately and consciously connect with Lilith as a source of power. Lilith is not a genie to grant wishes, but a powerful archetype, a source of wisdom, strength, and primal energy. How do we truly connect with her on a personal level? Finally, ethical responsibility. Power can be used for good and evil, so choose wisely. Acknowledge the potential impact of your ritual on yourself and others, ensuring that your intention is aligned with ethical principles and does not infringe on the free will of others. Remember the shadow work we discussed earlier. This is about embracing your power, not dominating others. What happens if power is used to hurt someone else? How many dark sorcerers have fallen because of this reason? Relate these principles to magic, and you'll find that magic is real if you believe it. Magic is not about supernatural powers, but about harnessing the power of your mind, your will, and your emotions to manifest your desires, or to bring out the darkest parts of yourself. Belief is the catalyst that transforms intention into reality. This is about personal empowerment, not manipulation. Lilithian ritual is about empowering yourself, exploring your inner darkness, and reclaiming your sovereignty. It is not about controlling or manipulating others to satisfy your own desires. How do you follow these steps to move on? Now that we've established these core principles, let's delve into the specific elements that comprise a Lilithian ritual. A typical Lilithian ritual can be broken down into several key elements, each serving a distinct purpose and contributing to the overall experience. Remember, these elements are guidelines, not rigid rules, and can be adapted to suit your individual preferences and needs. First, the altar. It's a space consecrated to the Great Dark Mother and adorned with black and crimson silks and velvet. The altar serves as a focal point for your energy and intention, a sacred space dedicated to Lilith. Adorn it with relevant symbols such as the sigil of Lilith, black candles, obsidian stones, and offerings like pomegranate seeds or dark flowers. Where can one obtain these things? Could it be as simple as your garden? Next, invocation. The call is as old as time and reverberates through the ages. Lilith, Night Queen, arise. Invocation involves calling upon Lilith through prayer, chanting, or evocative language, acknowledging her presence and inviting her guidance. The invocation can be a formal prayer, a personal expression of devotion, or a simple heartfelt call for connection. Here are some prayers to connect to Lilith, but what if you could write your own? Can you imagine the power of your own carefully chosen words? Third, meditation visualization. Sink down into the darkness. What do you see in the darkness? Meditation and visualization involve focusing the mind on Lilithian imagery, symbols, or archetypes to deepen the connection and facilitate inner transformation. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in the Lilithian ritual space. What do you see? What do you feel? Allow yourself to be drawn into the darkness to explore the depths of your unconscious mind. You are there. Now what? Fourth, offerings. A libation of pomegranate juice, honeyed wine, or even a lock of hair willingly given. Offerings are gifts or acts of devotion presented to Lilith as a sign of respect and gratitude. These offerings can be material objects, such as flowers, candles, or incense, or they can be acts of service, such as dedicating time to a cause you believe in or expressing your creativity through art or music. Remind yourself and others that offerings can be more than just objects. They can be something intrinsic to the spirit itself. What does Lilith really want? Self-respect. What else does she crave? Finally, intention setting. Visualize the ritual's goal. Intention setting involves clearly stating the desired outcome of the ritual, focusing your intention and directing your energy towards achieving your goal. Clearly visualize your desired outcome, feel the emotions associated with it, and state your intention with conviction and clarity. What if your intention is not fully clear? How can you best refine your intention to achieve the ideal outcome? With that said, release grounding, send the energy out. Grounding involves concluding the ritual with a release of energy and a grounding exercise to reintegrate into everyday consciousness. This can be done through visualization, meditation, or simply by spending time in nature. You must ground to not have lasting side effects, such as manic episodes or erratic emotional swings. These rules can be changed for your needs, but do not forget the themes that weave these rules together. You must have intention and raise energy with ethical responsibility. What happens when one does not act ethically? There was once a magician who acted unethically, who attempted to control a person through ritual, and this magician was soon found alone and destitute. The gods do not tolerate power mismanaged. This is the most important lesson of all. What can you do to make sure everything is safe, everything is ethical? These resources will help you find what is right for you, but with everything comes risk. Risk requires precautions. Always be responsible and ethical. If you are not in the right headspace, do not proceed, and use protective magic to keep yourself safe. Always research and prepare. Thoroughly research Lilithian lore, symbolism, and practices before attempting any ritual, and seek guidance from experienced practitioners. Defining a clear intention that is aligned with ethical principles and respecting personal boundaries is the bare minimum, and employing protection techniques, visualization, sigils, etc., and grounding exercises to maintain balance and prevent unwanted energies must also be done. If you are scared or uncomfortable, stop. So how does this all relate? By understanding the power of Lilith, we will be able to continue the previous process of shadow work, but enhance it. Remember, this is an ongoing journey of self-discovery, not a one-time event. Now, let's transition to how all of this culminates in societal transformation and individual empowerment. So you've safely gathered your implements, thoroughly researched the lore, and grounded your will in ethical responsibility. What's next? How do we move from theory to practice and actually do a Lilithian ritual? It's one thing to understand the principles, but quite another to step into the ritual space and connect with Lilith's energy. Remember, as fellow mystics, that performing a ritual to connect with Lilith is a deeply personal journey, and it's crucial to approach it with caution, respect, and a clear understanding of your own intentions. There are inherent risks associated with engaging with powerful energies, so maintaining a grounded and balanced approach is essential. These are simply suggestions, fellow seekers, not rigid rules etched in stone. Feel free to adapt them to your own needs and preferences, honoring your intuition and personal connection with Lilith. If you feel fear or trepidation about working with Lilithian energy, know that this is perfectly normal. She is on your side if your heart is true and your intentions are ethical. In the sections that follow, we will cover safe and effective Lilithian ritual practices that will empower you to connect with her energy, explore your shadow self, and manifest your desires. But always remember, you are not a puppet master seeking to control external forces. You are transforming yourself, unlocking your inner power, and embracing your true potential. Are you ready to step into the Lilithian temple? Before diving into specific practices, it is paramount to begin with a cleansing and consecration ritual. The primary purpose of this ritual is to create a sacred space, purify your personal energy, and prepare yourself for deeper work with Lilith. Cleansing sets the ritual space, removing any stagnant or negative energies that may be lingering. Think of it as clearing away the debris before building a temple. So how do we do this? First, set up your altar in a respectful manner, arranging Lilithian symbols, colors, and offerings. A statue of Lilith can serve as a powerful focal point, representing her presence and energy. Black and red candles evoke her colors, while obsidian stones ground the space and absorb negative energies. But why these things specifically? Black is the color of the void, the primordial darkness from which all creation arises, while red symbolizes passion, power, and the life force. Now let us delve into cleansing the space. Sage, incense, or even sound can effectively remove negative energies. Sage is known for its purifying properties, while incense, particularly those with scents like sandalwood or myrrh, can create a calming and sacred atmosphere. But what does the incense help with? It helps to focus your mind, elevate your consciousness, and invite the presence of spiritual entities. Next, we ground and center ourselves, connecting with the earth's energy and establishing a sense of inner balance. Imagine roots extending from your feet deep into the earth, anchoring you to its stability and strength. Touch the earth to ground yourself, feeling its solid presence beneath your feet. You can also visualize a cord of energy connecting your root chakra to the center of the earth, drawing up its nourishing power. Now, let's invoke Lilith, calling upon her presence with a prayer or chant, acknowledging her power and wisdom. A simple invocation might be, "Lilith, Queen of the Night, I call upon your presence to guide me on this journey of self-discovery." These are examples of prayers that you can connect with, so don't blindly use this prayer because you might be missing something if you do. Finally, consecrate the space, declaring it sacred and dedicated to Lilith's energy, sealing it off from unwanted influences. A statement like, "I declare this space sacred and dedicated to the energy of Lilith." May it be a sanctuary for transformation and empowerment, can effectively consecrate the area. You are declaring this is a safe space, a space where you can explore your inner depths without fear or judgment. Remember that emotions are your friend during a ritual, so let these emotions empower you to connect with Lilith and unlock your potential. Respect the space, focus your intention, and trust in the process, because what's next after you cleanse? After establishing a sacred space, we can move to more focused work, like shadow work. You can use Lilith to explore the shadow, to delve into the hidden aspects of your psyche, the parts of yourself that you may have suppressed, denied, or rejected. Shadow work with Lilith is about bringing these aspects into the light of awareness, understanding their origins, and integrating them into your whole self. But what is the best way to safely go about it? First, set your intention, clearly defining what aspect of your shadow self you wish to explore and integrate, framing it positively. For example, instead of "I intend to eliminate my anger," try "I intend to understand and heal my anger." You must word the intention carefully and not harm yourself, because language holds immense power and the words you choose can shape your reality. Next, create a Lilithian mirror by setting up a mirror on the altar, symbolizing the reflection of the shadow self, using black cloth. The mirror represents your shadow, the parts of yourself that you may not want to see. The black cloth is used, and not white, because black absorbs and conceals, representing the hidden depths of the unconscious mind. Now invoke Lilith, calling upon her presence as a guide and ally in the shadow work process, asking for her help in understanding and integrating your darker aspects. Use the cleansing ritual as a template, adapting the words to suit your specific intention. Ask her to help you see your shadow self with compassion and honesty, to understand its origins, and to integrate it into your whole being. Once you've invoked Lilith, engage in journaling and reflection, writing about your shadow aspects, exploring their origins, and identifying their potential strengths. These journal prompts help to unleash you, to tap into the wellspring of wisdom and insight that lies within your unconscious mind. Prompts could include, what are my deepest fears and insecurities? What aspects of myself do I judge most harshly? And what are the hidden strengths and gifts within my shadow? Finally, visualize yourself embracing and integrating the shadow self, transforming negative aspects into positive forces. Envision a happy and healthy version, one where your shadow isn't something to be scared of, but rather a piece of the puzzle that makes you who you are. Next, present an offering to Lilith as a sign of gratitude and respect for her guidance, such as a poem, a piece of art, or an act of self-compassion. Show her respect, acknowledging her power and wisdom, and expressing your gratitude for her help in navigating the depths of your shadow self. The offering can be a tangible object, like a piece of art or a poem, or it can be an act of service, like volunteering your time or donating to a cause you believe in. Conclude the ritual with a release of energy and a grounding exercise to reintegrate into everyday consciousness, ensuring that the shadow aspects are integrated, not suppressed. Reconnect yourself to the earth and the world, feeling its solid presence beneath your feet, because this helps to anchor you in the present moment, preventing you from being overwhelmed by the intensity of the shadow work process. But most importantly, compassion will help you on your journey. It will allow you to approach your shadow self with kindness and understanding, transforming your pain into power and your fear into freedom. Don't project your own insecurities onto others. Be honest with yourself and others, and maintain ethical boundaries throughout the ritual. Remember, everything from this journey, it matters more than you think. To illustrate the difference between healthy integration and destructive fixation, consider the tale of two mages. One, a bright young witch, used Lilithian shadow work to understand and heal her anger, transforming it into a fierce determination to protect the vulnerable. The other, consumed by resentment, fixated on the bad side, using shadow work as a justification for cruelty and manipulation. Here is what you want to avoid, for the second mage ultimately fell into darkness, losing their power and their humanity. Now, what happens when we take the next step? How can we harness the power of Lilith to set healthy boundaries? An empowerment and boundary-setting ritual is designed to strengthen one's sense of personal power, assert one's needs and desires, and protect oneself from negative influences. Empower yourself and gain strength through Lilith. First, setting the intention by clearly defining what area of life you want to empower or what boundary you want to set, phrasing it positively, e.g., I intend to assert my needs in my relationships. Examples of clear intentions include, I will speak my truth with confidence and clarity, or I release the need to please others at my own expense. I am setting clear boundaries is another solid intention. Next, create a Lilithian shield by visualizing a protective shield of black and red energy surrounding oneself, deflecting negative influences and reinforcing personal boundaries. Black and red protect and make you strong. Imagine a swirling vortex of black and red energy emanating from your heart, expanding outwards to create a protective barrier around your entire being. Feel its strength, its solidity, its unwavering presence, because this is your shield, your sanctuary, your fortress of inner power. Now invoke Lilith, calling upon her presence as a source of strength, courage, and assertiveness, asking for her help in setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. Draw from the cleansing ritual as a template, adapting the words to suit your specific intention. Courage helps you stand tall, to speak your truth with confidence and clarity, and to protect yourself from those who would seek to harm you. Once you've invoked Lilith, speak affirmations that reinforce your personal power, self-worth, and right to assert your needs. I am strong, I am in control are two solid statements to empower you. Next, take a symbolic action that represents the boundary being set, such as writing a letter, drawing a line, or speaking one's truth assertively. Draw a line in the sand, both literally and metaphorically, signaling your unwavering commitment to protecting your boundaries. Take small but meaningful steps, because these steps will ultimately lead you to a place of greater empowerment and self-respect. Conclude the ritual with a release of energy and a grounding exercise to reintegrate into everyday consciousness, reinforcing the newly established boundaries. Reconnect to the earth and hold on to your new boundaries because you must be vigilant in protecting them. However, remember to maintain self-respect, authenticity, and non-violence throughout the ritual. Do no harm, but stand up for yourself, because true empowerment is not about dominating others, but about honoring your own needs and desires while respecting the boundaries of others. Remember everything from this journey. It matters more than you know. To illustrate this, consider the tale of two warlocks. One, empowered by Lilith, set healthy boundaries in his relationships, asserting his needs with confidence and clarity and creating a space for authentic connection. The other, fueled by ego and insecurity, attempted to control people through similar means, manipulating and coercing them to bend to his will. Here is what not to do. The second warlock ultimately alienated himself, losing the trust and respect of those around him. So what's the key? But how does this all play out in a transformation? How do these practices coalesce into something meaningful? The truth is that Lilithian ritual is not about worshipping a demon, but about connecting with a powerful archetype that embodies female strength, autonomy, and rebellion. Again, we are not worshipping evil, we are finding inner power, recognizing that this archetype resides within each of us, regardless of gender. It all connects in a nice and neat circle, showing us the importance of integrating all the lessons we've learned. But is that truly it? Is it that simple? By reclaiming the Lilith within, individuals can contribute to a more balanced and equitable world, one where the divine feminine is honored and celebrated, and where all voices are heard and respected. Lilithian ritual is a journey of self-discovery, not a destination, and so it will take a lifetime to explore everything. But don't be discouraged by the vastness of the path, for each step you take will bring you closer to your true self. And so, fellow seekers, it is crucial to emphasize that ongoing learning, reflection, and ethical responsibility when working with Lilithian energy are extremely important. Reiterate everything that you've learned to complete the journey. But what if there is still more to the story? Share your story in the comments below. How can the same energy that is associated with chaos, destruction, and primordial darkness be consciously channeled to facilitate healing, not just for oneself, but also for others? Considering the common perception of Lilith as a demonic figure, a bringer of misfortune and the epitome of female rebellion, it may seem paradoxical, even dangerous, to consider her in the context of healing. Yet, fellow seekers, Lilith's energy, when approached with respect and understanding, can be a profoundly transformative force, empowering individuals to confront their inner demons, embrace their shadow selves, and ultimately heal themselves and others. But are we talking about healing in the traditional sense of curing physical ailments, or are we discussing something far more holistic and profound? In the context of Lilithian energy, healing encompasses physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, a journey of self-discovery and empowerment that extends far beyond the mere alleviation of symptoms, because it goes deeper than that. In the sections that follow, we will explore the core principles of Lilithian healing, delving into practical techniques that you can apply to your own life and to the lives of others. We'll explore specific techniques for energy work, cord cutting, shadow integration, and community support, always emphasizing the ethical considerations that must guide our practice. But remember this, fellow mystics, empowerment is not a means of control, but a pathway to healing, a way to unlock the innate potential for wholeness and well-being that resides within each of us and those around us. So, what are the fundamental principles that underpin the practice of Lilithian healing? At its core, Lilithian healing rests upon several key pillars, each reflecting a facet of Lilith's multifaceted nature, but not all are easy to understand. These are empathy and compassion, shadow work integration, empowerment over curing, setting boundaries, and ethical responsibility. First, empathy and compassion involve connecting with the suffering of others on a deep, visceral level, offering support, understanding, and acceptance without judgment or ego. We are not here to fix people, but to walk alongside them on their healing journey, offering a safe space for them to explore their pain, process their emotions, and discover their own inner resources. Show them and show yourself compassion. Second, shadow work integration recognizes that our own inner darkness can cloud our perception, distort our intentions, and lead us to project negativity onto others. By confronting and integrating our own shadow aspects, we can avoid inflicting harm, maintain clarity of purpose, and offer healing from a place of genuine authenticity. After all, we cannot heal others if we ourselves are wounded, and so you need to learn to embrace your inner darkness. Third, empowerment over caring acknowledges that true healing comes from within, from the individual's own capacity to take control of their well-being and make positive changes in their lives. We are not miracle workers, nor are we puppet masters. Our role is to facilitate self-healing, to empower individuals to tap into their own innate potential for wholeness and well-being. Lilith can only aid, she cannot act for you. Fourth, setting boundaries respects the autonomy of others, acknowledging their right to choose their own path, make their own decisions, and refuse unwanted interventions. We must never impose our will upon others, drain their energy, or violate their personal boundaries, even with the best of intentions. Sometimes, even when healing is wanted, it can be rejected. One must always respect the boundaries of other people. Finally, ethical responsibility ties all of these principles together, urging us to acknowledge the potential impact of our actions on ourselves and others, ensuring that our intentions are aligned with ethical principles and that we are not causing harm, even unintentionally. Is it ethical to use the energy of Lilith to help someone overcome a difficult situation, or are we interfering with their karma? These principles, fellow mystics, are not merely abstract guidelines, but rather integral components of a broader vision of empowerment and societal transformation, the very themes that are often at the heart of Lilithian philosophy. This is why Lilithian healing is a collaborative process, requiring trust, respect, and clear communication between practitioner and client, a partnership built on mutual understanding and shared intention. As we delve into the specific techniques of Lilithian healing, it is important to remember these core principles, allowing them to guide our actions and inform our choices, because we will need that foundation as we move forward. Now, what specific techniques can we employ to harness the power of Lilith for healing? There are many techniques you can use, but it's important that you consult with a real doctor if you are feeling ill, because Lilithian healing is not a substitute for medical care. But how can we actually do Lilithian healing? What does it look like in practice? Several techniques can be employed to channel Lilith's energy, but always remember safety is the most important thing. First, energy work involves channeling Lilith's energy to clear blockages, balance chakras, and promote overall well-being. A guided meditation for energy healing can be a powerful tool, but it is crucial to emphasize consent and ethical boundaries, ensuring that the client feels safe and empowered throughout the process. The colors of the chakras and their symbolic associations can further enhance the experience, allowing the client to visualize specific energies flowing through their body. What are some of the chakra colors that can be used? Second, cord-cutting rituals involve severing energetic cords that connect us to people or situations that are draining or harmful. A step-by-step guide can provide a framework for this process, but it is essential to emphasize the importance of forgiveness and detachment, encouraging the client to release any lingering resentment or bitterness. It is vital to learn how to detach from people who harm you, because these cords can prevent healthy emotional growth. Third, shadow integration involves facilitating shadow work for others by providing a safe and supportive space for them to explore and integrate their darker aspects. Tips for creating a safe space and ethical guidelines are crucial here, ensuring that the client feels comfortable, supported, and empowered to confront their inner demons, because this is not to be taken lightly. Always keep it safe for the other party, because trauma is not to be taken lightly. Fourth, empowerment rituals involve creating personalized rituals to empower individuals to overcome challenges, set goals, and achieve their full potential. Templates for creating empowerment rituals can provide a starting point, but it is essential to tailor them to the specific needs and desires of the client, considering ethical considerations and potential consequences. There is a real and safe way to do it, and you should always seek it out. Finally, dream walking involves entering into people's dreams to help understand the source of their darkness and trauma. Offer a safe way to connect, and never take advantage of anyone in this state, but what dreamscapes are shown. For each of these techniques, fellow seekers, specific instructions, visualizations, and affirmations can further enhance the experience. During energy work, for example, one might visualize Lilith's energy as a swirling vortex of black and red light, clearing away any blockages and restoring balance to the chakras. Visualize this and say this. Throughout the process, it is essential to emphasize the importance of intention, intuition, and ethical boundaries, allowing one's inner wisdom to guide their actions and ensuring that they are not causing harm. After all, your gut knows what to do in these situations, and you should listen to it. As these lessons connect to everything you've learned, remember the tale of a healer who used her power to manipulate and control others, bending them to her will and draining their energy for her own benefit. Don't follow in their footsteps. So what happened to you? Share your story in the comments below, but what if there is a secret way to fully heal trauma through a community effort? How can we create a ripple effect of healing and transformation that extends beyond the individual and into the collective? Community healing and support offer just such an approach, for it takes a village to heal. Community healing involves creating a safe and inclusive space where individuals can share their experiences, support one another, and collectively address challenges. No one is left behind. We all work together to solve our collective and individual trauma. This, fellow mystics, requires active listening, empathy and validation, mutual support, and collective action. First, active listening involves providing a non-judgmental space for others to share their stories and emotions, truly hearing what they have to say without interruption or criticism. Try prompting people by asking, "What happened to you, and how can I help?" Second, empathy and validation involve acknowledging and validating the experiences of others, even if you don't fully understand them, offering reassurance that their feelings are valid and their voices are heard. Try and express, "What you experienced must have been terrifying." Third, mutual support involves offering practical assistance, emotional support, and encouragement to those in need, helping them to navigate challenges, build resilience, and discover their own inner resources. Here is what you can offer to someone, and remember it is okay to do so. Finally, collective action involves working together to address systemic issues that contribute to suffering and inequality, advocating for social justice, promoting inclusivity, and creating a more compassionate and equitable world. What can we do together, and how can we do it? Connect this to the broader themes of societal transformation and the divine feminine, recognizing that by healing ourselves and our communities, we are contributing to a world where everyone can thrive, where the divine feminine is honored and celebrated, and where all voices are heard and respected, because it is all interconnected and it all makes sense. Remember that Lilithian community healing is not about imposing one's beliefs or solutions on others, but about creating a space where everyone can connect with their own source of power and make their own choices. Give them the space to connect with their own source of power. As always, continue on your journey and take that next step. But how can someone find a Lilithian community to connect with? As always, ethics are important to consider. How can we ensure that our intentions are pure, our actions are aligned with the highest good, and that we are not causing harm, even unintentionally? Is it good intention or bad? What are you really doing with the power that you're given? While specific techniques are important, we now turn to an in-depth exploration of the ethical considerations that must guide our practice of Lilithian healing, because we cannot misuse the power we have. Acknowledge the potential for misuse of power, even in the context of healing, recognizing that even with the best intentions, we can inadvertently cause harm, violate boundaries, or exploit the vulnerability of others. Emphasize the need for self-reflection, ethical boundaries, and a commitment to non-violence, acknowledging that there are lines you must not cross. We must strive to act with integrity, compassion, and respect for the autonomy of others, always prioritizing their well-being above our own desires. This section will focus on practical strategies for ensuring ethical conduct in Lilithian healing, while excluding practices that are manipulative, coercive, or disrespectful, because manipulation is not okay. You cannot control others, only guide them and help them make the right choices. Remember always that empowerment empowers others, it does not seek to control them. So, what are the ethical boundaries that must guide our practice of Lilithian healing, ensuring that we are acting with integrity, compassion, and respect for the autonomy of others? These boundaries are not rigid rules etched in stone, but rather are living principles that must be adapted to the specific context of each situation, guiding our actions and informing our choices. They are informed consent, confidentiality, non-judgment, avoiding dual relationships, and self-care. First, informed consent ensures that individuals fully understand the nature of the healing process, its potential benefits and risks, and their right to refuse or withdraw consent at any time. Give them all the options to choose. Second, confidentiality respects the privacy of others, avoiding the disclosure of sensitive information without their explicit permission. You must always respect the other person and their private stories. Third, non-judgment offers support and acceptance without condemning the beliefs, choices, or experiences of others. Be accepting of their own opinions and perspectives. Fourth, avoiding dual relationships maintains professional boundaries, avoiding relationships that could compromise objectivity or exploit the vulnerability of others, because it is predatory. Don't start a relationship with your subject. It is a clear boundary that should not be crossed. Finally, self-care prioritizes one's own well-being to avoid burnout, maintain clarity, and prevent the projection of unresolved issues onto others. If you don't help yourself first, you can't help anyone. These boundaries are not arbitrary rules, but rather reflections of deeper ethical frameworks, such as the Hippocratic Oath and the principles of beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomy, and justice. Remember the foundations of humanity to help you in your practices. They guide us to act with integrity, compassion, and respect for the dignity of all beings. However, these ethical boundaries are not rigid rules, but flexible guidelines that must be adapted to the specific context of each situation. Ethics can be bent and molded as necessary, but never broken. Having defined these boundaries, let us now turn to some practical strategies for maintaining ethical conduct in our practice of Lilithian healing. Here are practical applications of each point. Seek supervision, document sessions, practice self-reflection, and seek continuing education. First, seek supervision by regularly consulting with experienced practitioners or ethical mentors to receive feedback and guidance on challenging situations. Find your own ethical mentor. Second, document sessions by keeping detailed records of all healing sessions, including the intentions, techniques used, and outcomes, to ensure transparency and accountability, because it's always a good idea to write things down. Third, practice self-reflection by regularly examining one's own motivations, biases, and emotional state to ensure that they are not influencing the healing process in a negative way. Remember to always check yourself. Finally, continue education by staying informed about ethical guidelines, best practices, and emerging issues in the field of healing, because knowledge is power. These techniques are not just abstract concepts, but rather practical tools that we can use to ensure that our actions are aligned with our values. Here are real-world applications. Share anecdotes of individuals who have successfully navigated ethical dilemmas in Lilithian healing, emphasizing the positive outcomes, because real situations need real solutions. But remember that ethical conduct is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. There is not a finish line, only a journey. As such, these lessons will help you to continue forward with yourself, Remember that Lilith is an energy to be used for good and not bad, and to always be mindful of your actions, because not everyone is good, some people are just bad. In contrast, there are people who think they are doing good, but they still may be harming others and not know it. So how did you do? Share your story. But how can we be certain that we are truly using Lilith's energy for the highest good, and not simply succumbing to our own ego, biases, or desires? Ethical considerations are not just a set of rules to be followed, but rather an integral component of the alchemical process itself. Transforming energy can only be done if ethical. By adhering to ethical principles, we can avoid the pitfalls of manipulation, coercion, and harm, and instead create a space for genuine connection, transformation, and growth. Transformation, and not darkness, is the key. This connects to Jungian psychology, the divine feminine, and the broader themes of societal transformation, because you can use everything you've learned to draw conclusions. In this way, we can suggest that ethical Lilithian healing is a form of alchemy, where negative energies are transmuted into positive forces, and suffering is transformed into resilience and empowerment. Turn all of the bad to good. Remember that this journey never ends. As always, remember to continue learning, reflecting, and acting with ethical responsibility when working with Lilithian energy, which will set up the conclusion. But what's next? Can Lilith's fiery energy, so often associated with primal rebellion, be harnessed to heal not just individual wounds, but the deep-seated scars of generational trauma, those echoes of suffering that reverberate through families across time? While we often think of Lilith as a force for personal liberation, a champion of the individual will, we must also consider her potential to mend the fractured bonds of kinship, to soothe the inherited pain that can subtly shape our lives. And this is a serious point, because so often people consider only individual cases and forget that the scars of the past might have influence even when they are gone. Indeed, the impact of trauma can extend far beyond a single lifetime, affecting future generations through inherited patterns of behavior, belief, and emotional responses, creating a legacy of suffering that can seem inescapable. This is because it isn't just in one person. But while addressing generational trauma is a complex and sensitive undertaking, requiring careful consideration and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, Lilithian energy can be a powerful tool for breaking cycles of suffering and fostering healing across families, empowering individuals to reclaim their ancestral narrative and forge a more positive future. How can this be done ethically and effectively, though? Let's define generational trauma more clearly, because the term itself can be somewhat vague. We are referring to psychological and emotional wounds passed down through families, often stemming from historical oppression, violence, or abuse. These wounds can manifest as anxiety, depression, addiction, relationship problems, or a pervasive sense of unease, shaping individuals' thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in profound ways. But does this also mean it can change DNA? In this section, we will explore the core principles of Lilithian generational healing, practical techniques, and potential benefits, offering a framework for understanding and addressing this often overlooked aspect of the human experience. But ultimately, is this a secret to a new life, reclaiming what was once yours? What does she know? So what are the core principles that underpin Lilithian generational healing, guiding our efforts to mend the wounds of the past and create a more positive future for ourselves and our descendants? There are 5 key principles which we will need to remember. Firstly, we must acknowledge ancestral connection. Secondly, identify intergenerational patterns. Thirdly, offer compassion and forgiveness. Fourthly, commit to breaking cycles. And finally, focus on empowering future generations. But how can we live by these simple rules? To acknowledge ancestral connection is to recognize that we are all connected to our ancestors and that their experiences can influence our lives in subtle and profound ways. The sins of the father, as the saying goes, can indeed be passed on to the son, not as a matter of moral judgment, but as a consequence of inherited patterns of behavior, belief, and emotional response. This can be observed through epigenetic inheritance, where environmental factors can alter gene expression and be passed down through generations. The old wounds influence new actions, and we need to understand that so that we can prepare. This isn't to say that we are destined to repeat the mistakes of the past, but rather that we must acknowledge the influence of our ancestors in order to make conscious choices about our own lives. Identifying intergenerational patterns involves recognizing recurring patterns of behavior, belief, and emotional response that have been passed down through families, often unconsciously. These patterns can manifest as addiction, abuse, codependency, or a pervasive sense of unworthiness, perpetuating cycles of suffering across generations. For instance, a family with a history of financial instability might pass down a scarcity mindset, leading to anxiety around money and difficulty accumulating wealth. And then what happens? By recognizing these patterns, we can begin to disrupt them, making conscious choices to create new, healthier ways of relating to ourselves and others, finally stopping them from thriving once and for all. Showing compassion and forgiveness is crucial because it involves offering compassion to oneself and one's ancestors, acknowledging that everyone is doing the best they can with what they have, given their circumstances and level of awareness. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior, but rather understanding the underlying causes of suffering and extending forgiveness to those who have caused pain, including ourselves. What suffering did they endure? This is particularly important when addressing generational trauma, as it can be easy to fall into blame and resentment, perpetuating the cycle of suffering. Try to show compassion to all. Breaking cycles means intentionally disrupting negative patterns and creating new, healthier ways of relating to oneself and others. This can involve setting boundaries, seeking therapy, practicing mindfulness, or engaging in other activities that promote healing and growth. Remember that it will take a lot of work and time to heal. For example, someone who grew up in a family where emotions were suppressed might consciously choose to express their feelings in a healthy and constructive way, modeling emotional intelligence for their children. By intentionally disrupting negative patterns, we can create a legacy of healing and resilience for future generations. How can we accomplish this goal? Empowering future generations involves creating a legacy of healing and resilience for future generations by addressing the root causes of trauma and fostering positive change. This can involve teaching children healthy coping mechanisms, promoting open communication, and creating a safe and supportive family environment. How can we heal those around us? For example, a parent who has healed from their own childhood trauma might consciously choose to break the cycle of abuse by providing their children with unconditional love, support, and guidance, fostering a sense of security and self-worth. By empowering future generations, we can create a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. These principles are deeply rooted in family systems theory, which views the family as an interconnected system where each member's behavior influences the others, as well as attachment theory, which emphasizes the importance of secure attachment relationships for healthy emotional development. Moreover, trauma-informed care recognizes the pervasive impact of trauma on individuals and families, emphasizing the need for safety, trust, and empowerment in the healing process, because this is not just opinions, but are backed by hard facts. By understanding these theoretical frameworks, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of generational trauma and develop more effective strategies for healing. Lilithian generational healing is a collaborative process, requiring sensitivity, patience, and a willingness to challenge deeply ingrained patterns, working together and helping each other. It is not a quick fix, but a journey of self-discovery and transformation that can take time and effort. It can also be very difficult. For example, confronting long-held family secrets or challenging deeply ingrained beliefs can be painful and unsettling, requiring courage and resilience. But with the support of a skilled practitioner and a commitment to ethical principles, individuals can break free from the chains of generational trauma and create a more positive future for themselves and their families. We will expand on the techniques so that you can decide the ones that best help. Now that we have explored the core principles of Lilithian generational healing, let us turn our attention to practical applications, examining specific techniques that can be employed to address generational trauma and foster healing across families. These steps might also bring up strong emotions, so it is important to be aware of this. These techniques include ancestral exploration, family constellation work, shadow work with ancestors, rituals of release and forgiveness, and dream incubation, each of which offers a unique pathway to understanding and transforming inherited patterns of suffering. How can one use this new toolbox? Ancestral exploration involves researching one's family history to identify potential sources of trauma, loss, or oppression, delving into the past to uncover hidden stories and forgotten experiences. This can involve genealogical research, interviews with family members, or exploration of historical archives. Tips for approaching sensitive topics with respect and empathy include asking open-ended questions, actively listening to the responses, and acknowledging the pain and suffering that may have been experienced, and don't assume the best, brace for the worst. Be prepared for what is shown. For example, discovering that one's ancestors were enslaved, persecuted, or subjected to other forms of oppression can be painful, but it can also provide valuable insight into the origins of current patterns of suffering. Remember to not go into it assuming only the best, as it might be very heartbreaking. Family constellation work involves participating in a family constellation workshop to gain insight into the dynamics of one's family system and identify potential sources of entanglement, revealing hidden loyalties and unconscious patterns. This can be done individually or in a group setting, with a facilitator guiding participants through a process of visualizing and representing their family members and their relationships, as it takes a village to connect and learn. The facilitator will create a safe space to connect and learn. For example, a family constellation might reveal that an individual is unconsciously carrying the burden of a deceased ancestor, preventing them from fully living their own life. You will have to connect with a group safely, because connecting with random groups can be dangerous. Shadow work with ancestors involves engaging in shadow work to explore one's own inherited shadow aspects, recognizing that these aspects may be connected to unresolved trauma in the family lineage. This can involve journaling, meditation, or working with a therapist to identify and integrate disowned aspects of the self. Remember those old wounds, because they might feel new again, so be careful. For example, someone who grew up in a family where anger was suppressed might discover that they have a difficult time expressing their own anger, leading to passive-aggressive behavior or emotional outbursts. You must be careful because old wounds might feel new again, so proceed with caution. Rituals of release and forgiveness involve creating personalized rituals to release oneself and one's ancestors from the burden of past trauma, offering forgiveness and setting intentions for a more positive future, breaking the chains of suffering and reclaiming one's ancestral narrative. Follow these step-by-step instructions with visualization. First, find a quiet and safe space where you can connect to Lilith. Second, light a black candle to represent her power. Third, write out all the issues and the generational trauma. Fourth, say you forgive them. Finally, burn the paper and know they are only human. Forgive them, for they were only human. As always, though, remember intention is key. Dream incubation involves asking Lilith to connect with your ancestors, seeking guidance and insight from beyond the veil, because they are often trying to send signals, but we are not always listening. What hidden knowledge and insight can they provide, and what dreamscapes can appear, offering lessons can be learned. What lessons can be found in your sleep? For example, one might ask Lilith to reveal the source of a recurring dream, leading to a deeper understanding of unresolved trauma in the family lineage. By connecting with our ancestors in our dreams, we can gain access to wisdom and guidance that can help us to heal and grow, giving clarity. For each of these techniques, specific instructions, visualizations, and affirmations can further enhance the experience, empowering individuals to connect with Lilith's energy in a meaningful way. When you meditate, use all your senses and trust your gut. For example, during a ritual of release and forgiveness, one might visualize Lilith's energy as a cleansing fire, burning away the chains of trauma and creating space for new beginnings. All of these things need to be in control of you so that you can trust your ritual. As always, it is important to emphasize the importance of intention, intuition, and ethical boundaries throughout the process, honoring the autonomy of others and avoiding unwanted interventions. So do not force anything, it will come to you in due time. But be careful. Too much involvement in the past can have unintended consequences, potentially stirring up negative energies or exacerbating existing problems, as illustrated by the tale of a family that became cursed by being too involved in the past, digging up secrets that were better left buried, and ultimately tearing themselves apart from the inside out. What secrets do the suppressed texts hold, or is there a greater truth? What are some of the things you've learned in your journey? Because it's a shared path. Now, how can Lilithian energy be channeled to create supportive and healing communities, extending the benefits of generational healing beyond the individual and into the collective? After all, it takes a village to heal from something like this. Indeed, community healing involves creating a safe and inclusive space where individuals can share their experiences, support one another, and collectively address intergenerational patterns of trauma and suffering, fostering a sense of belonging and shared purpose. Together, you will become strong to face all problems. And here's what this looks like in practice. Active listening involves providing a non-judgmental space for others to share their stories and emotions, truly hearing what they have to say without interruption or criticism. You can connect to the family by offering a place to talk. What are some things they might be feeling, and how can we help? Empathy and validation involve acknowledging and validating the experiences of others, even if you don't fully understand them, offering reassurance that their feelings are valid and their voices are heard, because they might be ancestors with different lives than us. Try to be empathetic to all, even if you have never met them. Collective action involves working together to address systemic issues that contribute to intergenerational trauma, such as racism, poverty, and violence, advocating for social justice and promoting inclusivity, because the goal is that the community becomes stronger. How can you help stop the bad in the world? Connect this to societal transformation and the divine feminine, recognizing that by healing ourselves and our communities, we are contributing to a world where everyone can thrive, where the divine feminine is honored and celebrated, and where all voices are heard and respected. Draw upon the divine feminine. Lilithian community healing is not about imposing one's beliefs or solutions on others, but about creating a space where everyone can connect with their own source of power and make their own choices, but rather a space where everyone can thrive, show them love, and heal their spirit. This is what community should be. Therefore, we must continue to learn, reflect, and act with ethical responsibility when working with Lilithian energy for healing, because a great change is upon us. What is the journey and what is next? But is family all that matters? These thoughts now bring us to a new set of questions. And so, what ethical considerations are paramount in Lilithian generational healing, ensuring that we are acting with integrity, compassion, and respect for the autonomy of others? And furthermore, how do we balance our desire to help future relatives with their autonomy and free will, honoring their choices and respecting their boundaries? Can we decide for other people and their healing? Because this is not an easy decision to make, we need to be aware of the ethical dangers. After all, there is a very real potential for harm, including the resurfacing of painful memories, the disruption of family dynamics, and the imposition of one's own beliefs on others, and even the violation of personal boundaries, each with the potential to cause significant distress. Some things can go wrong, so what can happen? The need for informed consent is paramount, ensuring that all participants fully understand the nature of the healing process and their right to decline or withdraw at any time, respecting their autonomy and empowering them to make their own choices. So give them all the information so they can make their own choice. It is equally important to respect boundaries, honoring the autonomy of others, and avoiding unwanted interventions or energy drain, because people may not want it. You can't change other people's minds, they have to come to the decision themselves. Non-judgment is also essential, offering support and acceptance without judging or condemning the beliefs, choices, or experiences of others in the family, fostering a space of compassion and understanding. Keep an open mind about everything. Self-care is of course vital. It is important to prioritize one's own well-being to avoid burnout, maintain clarity, and prevent the projection of unresolved issues onto others. Help yourself first, so you don't burn out, so you can protect others. This connects to the core principle of empowerment, because it is always ethical to allow them to be empowered to make a change. Let's explore some actionable steps and concrete examples for real-world applications, helping us to navigate the ethical complexities of Lilithian generational healing with greater clarity and confidence, starting with family meetings. Gather and heal together. Family meetings can involve discussing the possibilities for family healing and providing support to those who wish to participate, establishing clear steps and boundaries, what questions to ask and what to avoid saying, ensuring that everyone feels safe, respected, and empowered. It requires clearly stated rules and goals. If family chooses to participate, create a safe environment to foster growth and expression, because it is dangerous to create one that might harm others. Protect them so they can grow and be mindful of these things. This will involve cultivating trust, respect, and open communication, encouraging individuals to share their experiences and express their emotions without fear of judgment, but also avoiding pitfalls that can create toxic dynamics. Be mindful of what might happen and make sure that what is said stays in that space. Also, be sure to document results and do not share anything that happens, maintaining transparency for the participants, while also being very careful with what's shared, understanding that confidentiality can save lives. Examples and rules on what not to do will keep everyone safe. What is said in the space stays in the space. Seeking mentorship or supervision by connecting with family members that can safely guide and help with the overall integration can be invaluable, empowering individuals to navigate the complexities of generational healing with greater confidence and skill. You can find a lot of help from others. This can involve connecting with experienced practitioners, ethical mentors, or trusted family members who can provide guidance, support, and accountability. Here is someone who had success and someone who failed and why, which can offer clarity. Remember to always be careful and never assume the best, and listen to people's stories and learn from their failures. Always be careful and never assume the best. Always remember that you can draw upon the divine feminine because you have power and might. It's all interconnected and it all makes sense. You are always connecting to something larger and greater. Finally, remember to have fun and to not be afraid of the future. So this leads us to a question. Is there a way to be guided to family from the other side, to understand those that are guiding you? What are some of your experiences? Can a figure so often associated with darkness and chaos, as Lilith is, truly be a source of creative inspiration? While Lilith is commonly misconstrued as a purely destructive force, it is important to understand that her energy can also be a catalyst for profound creative breakthroughs, an energy that pushes us beyond the mundane. But does this mean we can use her for our own personal gain? Creativity, in a Lilithian context, encompasses more than just artistic expression. It also includes problem-solving, innovation, and the ability to see the world in new ways, providing new avenues for self-discovery. In this section, we will explore the core principles of Lilithian creativity, practical techniques for harnessing her energy, and examples of artists who have been inspired by her. Is there a secret circle of artists who worship Lilith, drawing power from the muse of the night, and creating masterpieces that challenge the foundations of reality? Remember that creativity is about empowerment, not imitation, finding what inspires you to be more creative and unique. Now, let us delve into the fundamental principles of Lilithian creativity. What are the pillars upon which this transformative approach to art and innovation rests? There are 5 principles that can help. First, we must embrace the shadow. Second, we must challenge conventions. Third, we must have authenticity and self-expression. Fourth, we need to have rebellion and defiance. And fifth, we must have emotional intensity. Now, how does one truly begin to live by these pillars? Embracing the shadow involves exploring and integrating one's darker aspects, fears, and repressed emotions as a source of artistic inspiration, finding the beauty in the darkness. Consider the concept of the shadow self in Jungian psychology, which posits that each of us possesses a hidden side containing repressed desires, instincts, and negative emotions. But if we continue to suppress these aspects of ourselves, it can lead to psychological distress and creative stagnation. By confronting and integrating the shadow, artists can unlock a wellspring of raw, authentic material to fuel their work, transforming pain and fear into powerful expressions of the human experience. Should we find beauty in the shadows and make them real? Challenging conventions means breaking free from traditional artistic norms and expectations, daring to experiment with new forms and ideas, questioning everything, and pushing the boundaries of what is considered acceptable. What chains are binding us? The history of art is filled with examples of artists who defied convention to create groundbreaking works, from the Impressionists who rejected academic painting techniques to the Surrealists who explored the realm of the unconscious. Lilithian creativity encourages artists to question authority, challenge oppressive systems, and promote social change through their work, daring to be different and paving the way for new forms of expression. Is this why she broke the traditional bond, defying the role she was assigned and challenging the authority of Adam and God? Authenticity and self-expression requires prioritizing genuine self-expression over external validation, creating art that reflects one's unique perspective and experiences. After all, the world needs to see you as you are, rather than as a copy of someone else. Is there any value in being a copycat? In a world saturated with manufactured images and superficial trends, authentic art stands out as a beacon of truth and integrity, resonating deeply with audiences who crave genuine connection. By embracing their individuality and expressing their true selves, artists can create works that are both personally fulfilling and universally relevant, tapping into the shared human experience. Why authenticity, and why is it so important to be real and genuine with yourself, always honoring your unique voice and vision? Rebellion and defiance means channeling Lilith's rebellious spirit to challenge oppressive systems, question authority, and promote social change through art, using creativity as a weapon against injustice. Art has a long history of social and political activism, serving as a powerful tool for raising awareness, challenging the status quo, and inspiring change. So be a warrior for good. But is this really the best way to defy the system and be defiant, using creativity to challenge oppressive systems and promote social change? Emotional intensity requires drawing on raw emotion, passion, and even pain to fuel one's creative process, transforming personal experiences into meaningful art, because true art comes from the heart. Life is not always easy, and you have to use those emotions. Artists who are willing to tap into their deepest emotions, whether joy, sorrow, anger, or fear, can create works that are both cathartic for themselves and profoundly moving for others. The more you invest in yourself, the better your creative projects will be. But how can we express raw emotions in a meaningful way, using personal experiences to create art that resonates with others? These principles resonate with artistic movements like Surrealism, Expressionism, and Dadaism, each of which sought to break free from traditional artistic norms and explore the depths of human consciousness. Expressionism sought to convey subjective emotions and experiences through distortion, exaggeration, and vivid colors, while Dadaism rejected logic and reason in favor of absurdity and chaos. Which art movement represents this the best, channeling these themes into powerful expressions of the human condition? Lilithian creativity is about personal transformation and empowerment, enabling artists to break free from creative blocks, overcome self-doubt, and create art that is both personally fulfilling and socially transformative, allowing them to become the best versions of themselves. With these techniques in hand, your creative journey will finally be able to begin. Now that we've laid the groundwork, let's examine some practical applications of Lilithian creativity, offering concrete exercises that can help you tap into your inner rebel and unleash your creative potential. Remember that these techniques can help you to be more creative. However, please do not do anything you are uncomfortable with. We will be looking at a shadow self-portrait, a rebellious art manifesto, emotional release through art, dream journaling and art, and deconstructed familiar objects. What does it all mean? A shadow self-portrait involves creating a portrait that represents your shadow self, exploring your darker aspects, fears, and repressed emotions through color, texture, and symbolism, giving form to the formless. This can involve using dark colors, distorted shapes, and unsettling imagery to convey the hidden aspects of your psyche, giving them a voice. For instance, you might use black and red to represent anger and aggression, or distorted features to convey feelings of fear and inadequacy. Use symbolism to unlock what is inside, bringing hidden emotions and desires into the light, promoting self-awareness and integration. Creating a rebellious art manifesto means writing a manifesto that challenges traditional artistic norms, expresses your creative vision, and outlines your commitment to authenticity and self-expression, a personal declaration of artistic independence. This can involve rejecting established styles, techniques, and themes in favor of new, experimental approaches and challenging the status quo. What rules are you breaking, and what new paths are you forging? Remember to defy all the rules and break all boundaries, expressing your unique vision without fear of judgment or censorship. Emotional release through art involves choosing a specific emotion, anger, grief, fear, and creating a piece of art, painting, sculpture, poem, that expresses that emotion in a raw, unfiltered way, transforming pain into power. This can involve using bold colors, aggressive brushstrokes, and visceral imagery to convey the intensity of your feelings, channeling the emotional energy into a creative outlet. Unfiltered expression is the most important thing, allowing you to process and release pent-up emotions in a healthy and constructive way, promoting emotional healing and self-discovery. Dream journaling and art involves keeping a dream journal and creating art inspired by your dreams, exploring the symbolism, imagery, and emotional content of your unconscious mind, tapping into the hidden depths of your psyche. This can involve sketching dream scenes, painting symbolic images, or writing poems that capture the essence of your nocturnal experiences. Be aware, though, because dreams can be weird and scary. It is okay to walk away if it is harmful. By embracing the strangeness and surreality of your dreams, you can gain access to a rich source of creative inspiration, unlocking hidden insights and expanding your artistic horizons, so be ready for anything. Deconstructing a familiar object requires taking an everyday object and deconstructing it visually and artistically, reassembling it in a wrong way to help the viewer unlock how rules can be broken and boundaries can be challenged, upending expectations and questioning assumptions. This can involve distorting the object's shape, altering its color, or placing it in an unexpected context, prompting viewers to see it in a new light. Challenge boundaries in a safe and unique way, promoting critical thinking and encouraging a more open-minded perspective. For each of these techniques, remember to use your senses and intuition, allowing your inner guide to lead the way. Trust the process. Above all, remember that you must show self-love in all things, fostering a compassionate and supportive relationship with your creative self. See what can happen if you do it wrong, fixating on darkness and negativity without integrating the shadow, leading to bitterness and despair. Remember that it is there and a part of what makes us human, both light and dark. Do you have any creative stories, moments where you found your work changed by channeling Lilith, and what was the effect? Are there ancient texts that explain a perfect creative ritual for art, lost knowledge that could unlock new levels of artistic expression? Now let's move on. Let's analyze how these practical exercises challenge traditional notions of the artistic process, reframing it as a journey of self-discovery, emotional release, and personal empowerment, because the process should not be rigid and difficult. Lilithian creativity is not about achieving technical perfection or external validation, but about connecting with one's inner voice, expressing one's authentic self, and transforming personal experiences into meaningful art, making authenticity important because it showcases the real you. Consider that women are able to stand up for themselves and have the right to autonomy, connecting this to the feminist interpretation of Lilith as a symbol of female empowerment, highlighting her rejection of patriarchal norms and her embrace of female agency, which allows transformation of lives to help you become whole. By channeling Lilith's energy, artists can break free from creative blocks, overcome self-doubt, and create art that is both personally fulfilling and socially transformative. But it should be a conscious effort, and it will not come easy to all people, which is a very hard warning for some. But what else is there to explore when considering your path and process with Lilith? Is there a best physical space for Lilithian artistic creation, a location that resonates with her energy and enhances the creative process? What are the most important characteristics of such a space, the qualities that make it conducive to artistic inspiration and self-expression? What characteristics matter, and does the environment matter? It should not feel like you are being punished, but being lifted up, not a sterile and pure location for art, but finding a location that speaks to you. Protection is a two-way street, using the sacred space to both draw forth the power of Lilith and also to protect the artist during creative work, because sometimes you need to be alone, but at other times you might not. What should the artist look for when scouting a location, and what are good starting points, and what can you do to connect more? Consider if you should work indoors or outdoors, taking inspiration from both the natural world and the inner landscape of your imagination. A safe place to start is at home. Safety is key. Remember that she is often affiliated with nature. Finding a place to connect with nature, whether it is a park, forest, or even your backyard, can become a special zone to channel the Lilithian creative spirit. Comfort will allow you to let go, bringing items to make you comfortable, such as pillows, blankets, or art easels, allowing you to be free. Clean and consecrate the zone, using sage, incense, or even sound vibrations to prepare the location before art or writing, protecting you from dark energies, making sure you are safe, and this will protect you from dark energies. What does it mean to protect the area? Never take more than you give, because this can't be stressed enough. Allow the universe to guide you to your next masterpiece, setting up a dream board at the location to help incubate ideas for future works, inviting Lilith to your projects by requesting guidance to her in the zone. What might be best to bring for your individual case, because the space will be unique to the viewer's personal artistic journey and connection with Lilith. It can be as simple as the desk in the house or a whole mountain. It needs to be a place where the artist can embrace their shadow and safely express themselves, a place where you can be yourself. Do not bind yourself to harmful expectations, because you should be comfortable in your studio. What if this step is skipped? And is this important for everyone, or is that only there for specific individuals? This helps to see if you really need the sacred space. Is there a way to make the sacred space travel with you, carrying the energy and inspiration wherever you go? Now, we have much more to discover. A new level for a new world. Lilithian support and sacred spaces aren't just about creativity, but finding a way to use difficult topics to bring change, also bringing a positive change to your artistic journey. The possibilities are endless if you are open to them. But what is one change you want to see in this world? Remember that this will empower others around you, but that a deep-seated understanding of the self can take time, and it should not be rushed, especially during Lilithian artistry, because this transformation does not happen overnight. How do you avoid doing damage to yourself? What are key ethical considerations before releasing something into the world? Since this is just the start of this amazing journey, ethics are paramount to safe expression. What harm could an artist inflict upon an unsuspecting audience, and how do they protect themselves? What is shock value, and should you use it, especially when they are working to challenge expectations and boundaries? There is an obligation to not purposefully create harm. What is the journey, and what is next? There will be people that don't like it, and that is okay, because you are required to not push boundaries upon people that are unwilling, and how you are required to not push boundaries upon people that are unwilling. What are some of the things that should be done to promote a comfortable and yet challenging experience? Art without a soul is just plain old shock. Don't be afraid, but be understanding. Now you know what to do, and it is exciting. Working with Lilith's energy is not without its perils, and this section serves as a stark reminder. Proceed with extreme caution, as this information is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. Everything we have already discussed, the importance of ethics, personal responsibility, and confronting your shadow, is now more critical than ever. There are very real downsides to irresponsibly wielding this potent energy. Before attempting any advanced Lilithian practices, it's crucial to seek guidance from experienced practitioners or ethical mentors. What constitutes advanced Lilithian practices, you might ask? Anything involving intense emotional release, deep shadow work, or any attempt to manipulate external circumstances or individuals. Remember, we are not your expert. This is merely our perspective, offered to you with the hope that it helps you on your own path. The critical difference between empowerment and manipulation is a line you must never cross. While Lilith's name is often associated with the empowerment of the self, it is crucial to understand the distinction and remember, she should never be used for evil. Let's break it down to make it very clear. Manipulation, goal, controlling or influencing others for personal gain, satisfying only self-serving desires. Tactics, deception, coercion, guilt-tripping, emotional blackmail. What are some of the manipulative things one might do? Impact, undermining the autonomy and well-being of others, creating imbalance and harm. How does this harm others in the long run? Empowerment, goal, helping others to recognize their own power, set healthy boundaries, and make authentic choices. We have only been discussing how to help yourself and others. Remember, tactics, honesty, transparency, respect for autonomy, and support for self-discovery. What does transparency even mean in this context? It means being honest about your intent. Impact, fostering self-reliance, resilience, and positive change. How does that create positive change in the world? Remember the golden rule. Do you want to be manipulated? So don't do it to others. You need to look inside yourself first. What does it mean, then, to actually put these things into practice? To avoid manipulating others and to practice empowerment, you can follow a few steps. As you examine your motives, ask yourself, are you seeking to control or to empower? Explore this question before doing anything, because being brutally honest with yourself is essential for success. Always maintain a high standard of honesty when you observe your tactics. Are you being honest and transparent, or are you using deception and guilt? Consider how this impacts others and what you are going to do about it. Listen to your intuition, because if something feels wrong, it probably is. Sometimes, it's a subtle but persistent whisper, so pay attention. What can you do to tap into your inner sense? If you have trusted friends or mentors, seek feedback from them, asking for honest feedback about your behavior and intentions. Get an outside and informed opinion, because sometimes we need someone to help keep us on track. Respect the autonomy of others, setting clear boundaries and avoiding unwanted interventions. No one wants their thoughts or bodies violated. Reiterate what boundaries can look like for different people. What actions can be taken to reclaim power if you are a victim of manipulation? There are remedies and steps to take in such a situation, including legal remedies, as mentioned earlier. By embodying these practices, you will become a better, safer, and more responsible magic user. Remember that you get better and more aware by taking action. Also, freedom is key to personal expression and happiness. If you feel like you are losing control, here are some resources that may help you better understand these dangerous steps and come back into your strength. Remember, freedom is key to personal expression and happiness, and this is what Lilith represents. These aren't just abstract concepts. These are real stories from real people. Some have been manipulated, and others have been manipulators. Are there ancient texts that explain the steps on how to overcome manipulation, lost knowledge that could unlock new levels of awareness? Are there people you can contact if you are being manipulated? And with that, you should take a step back and think. These techniques connect directly to ethical frameworks concerning the responsibility of the practitioner and the protection of the victim to not take away freedom or use undue influence. What might some of those protections look like in practice? You've already laid the groundwork for safety. How do shadows, sacred space, and intent all merge together to empower the practitioner and protect the vulnerable? What other lessons have you learned that can protect them? Let's connect all the pieces again. Remember, let us continue searching for a better world and a more complete journey. Always improve, and not just stop because you are comfortable. Is there a limit to the amount of good that you can do? And are there dangers to trying to pursue too much good in the world? But what if there's a way for a skilled magic user to see deception in someone's dreams? Not every path that claims to lead to Lilith truly does, and some roads wind through treacherous territory, promising enlightenment while delivering only darkness. How can we discern the true voice of Lilith from the echoes of corrupted intentions, the whispers of those who seek to control and manipulate in her name? It is crucial to approach the study and practice of Lilithian spirituality with critical thinking, unwavering discernment, and a healthy dose of skepticism, always questioning, always verifying. For the path to Lilith, like any path of power, can be twisted and distorted by those who seek to exploit its energy for their own selfish or even malicious ends, spreading misinformation, engaging in manipulation, and outright falsehoods to those who are most vulnerable. What then constitutes a corrupted influence in the context of Lilithian spirituality? It is any source of information, guidance, or practice that promotes harm, control, or unethical behavior under the guise of Lilith's name, twisting her message of empowerment into a tool of oppression. We will equip you with the knowledge and tools to navigate these treacherous waters, to identify the red flags of corrupted influence, to recognize their common tactics, and to protect yourself from their potential harm. But are there secret societies that promote these corrupted images of Lilith? Research, trust your gut, and remember our core principle: trust your intuition, but verify. Corrupted influences often employ a range of manipulative tactics to control and exploit their followers, preying on those seeking guidance, validation, or a sense of belonging. Isolation is a common weapon, where they discourage contact with friends, family, or other sources of support, creating a dependence on the corrupted influence as the only source of truth and validation. Another tactic is love bombing, overwhelming individuals with excessive praise, attention, and affection, creating a false sense of trust and obligation, an attempt to obligate you to do things you may not want to do. Then there is gaslighting, twisting reality to make individuals doubt their own sanity, perceptions, and memories, making you question what is true. Fear-mongering is also used, using fear, intimidation, or threats to control behavior and suppress dissent, often focusing on Lilith's supposed anger or vengefulness. Some will even display grandiosity, presenting oneself as a superior being, a chosen one, or the only source of truth, demanding absolute obedience and admiration. And lastly, some will have a cult of personality, focusing on an individual that is being worshipped as a messiah. How do these tactics relate to common cult behaviors, such as those employed by Jim Jones, for example? People who are hurting, seeking answers, or feeling lost are particularly vulnerable to these tactics, making it easier for corrupted influences to gain control. Let's remember the types of manipulation that you could be subjected to. Just as cult leaders often isolate their followers from the outside world, corrupted Lilithian groups may discourage contact with anyone who questions their teachings or practices. Just as abusive partners use gaslighting to undermine their victims' self-esteem, corrupted influences may twist Lilithian principles to justify emotional abuse and control. These tips can help you stay safe from harm, and in the next section, we will expand on practical strategies for protecting yourself from these dangers. To protect yourself from corrupted influences in Lilithian spirituality, it's essential to maintain clear boundaries with individuals or groups that exhibit red flag behaviors, and be willing to distance yourself if those boundaries are violated. No means no, always. Seek outside validation by consulting with trusted friends, family members, or ethical mentors to get objective feedback about your experiences and relationships. An outsider can often see what is really going on, providing a crucial perspective that you may be unable to see yourself. Always research and verify any claims made by corrupted influences, and consult multiple sources of information before accepting anything as truth. Use Google and research, and do not rely solely on the word of one individual or group. Trust your intuition, paying attention to your gut feelings and warning signs, and don't ignore red flags simply because you want to believe in something. Gut feelings can save your life, so trust it. Document everything, keeping a record of all communications, events, and interactions with corrupted influences, in case you need to seek help or take legal action, what some call CYA, or cover your ass, by writing everything down. If you have been harmed by a corrupted influence, report the abuse to the appropriate authorities or support organizations. It is not your fault, and someone will believe you. Here are some actions to protect you, and what we stated back before can help guide your approach. Remember the importance of boundaries, intentions, safe practice, and ethics. Silence is compliance. Use your voice. These people were strong, and you can be too. To illustrate these dangers, let's consider a fictionalized case study of a group that used Lilithian energy for manipulative purposes. This is They Reel You In. The group's leader, charismatic and grandiose, used love-bombing tactics to attract vulnerable individuals, showering them with praise and attention. The group's ideology twisted Lilithian principles to justify control, exploitation, or even violence, making you think you are good when they are evil. Individuals who questioned the leader's authority or the group's practices were isolated, gaslighted, and emotionally abused. You are not crazy, and they are manipulating you. Eventually, the group was exposed and dismantled, emphasizing the importance of speaking out and seeking help. You can take your power back from the darkness. We are not saying that this represents all Lilithian groups, but it serves as a cautionary tale. It always comes back to those important themes: critical thinking and ethical boundaries. We want you to be safe, so follow all resources and they can help. What dream symbols, such as snakes or shadows, relate to manipulators so that people can stay safe? Here are dream signals that can help you identify those people. What should a viewer do if they see red flags? Is it time to find a new mentor? It can be a very lonely road to follow if you do not have someone that can look over what you are doing. You have to protect yourself so that you aren't corrupted. What are you looking for in a mentor? How do you know they are genuine? How can they understand if the person is trying to take advantage of you? you might not know the proper steps, and that is all right. How do you connect and know that the person you can trust is safe? What qualities and examples should you look for? There are those people, and it is all right to seek outside help. There are ways to be shown if there are red flags. We do not want anyone to be alone in their journey. Is there a group for mentors and leaders to connect with to help each other so that the proper word is being spread? We can all help each other stay on the path. This journey is about making sure you can stay safe, and for that, we need to think about ethics, because ethics are important. Remember, trust is fragile. This will always be about autonomy and empowerment. We do not want to be abused or taken advantage of. All these steps lead to great power and help. Always seek better understanding, and that journey never ends. And is there a way to test people to measure ethics? In a world still grappling with gender inequality and the suppression of female voices, Lilith's story remains strikingly relevant, doesn't it? From ancient demoness to feminist icon, Lilith's character has undergone countless transformations, each reflecting the changing attitudes and beliefs of the societies that have embraced or demonized her. After delving so deep into her lore and history, are you ready to challenge everything you thought you knew about Lilith? Her enduring power lies in her ability to challenge the status quo, question authority, and inspire personal transformation, offering a potent symbol for those who seek to break free from societal constraints and embrace their true selves. But what exactly is the status quo that Lilith challenges? It's the existing state of affairs, often characterized by patriarchal power structures, systemic inequalities, and the suppression of marginalized voices. These power structures control so many aspects of our lives, dictating everything from gender roles to career paths, often leaving individuals feeling trapped and unfulfilled. So how can Lilith's energy be harnessed to challenge this status quo in various aspects of life, including relationships, careers, and spirituality? Is she the key to unlocking a more just and equitable world for all, one where empowerment is not just a buzzword, but a lived reality? Lilith's influence can be particularly transformative in the realm of relationships, offering a potent antidote to traditional dynamics that are often based on inequality, control, and domination. Relationships don't have to be one-sided and terrible, and by embracing Lilith's energy, we can cultivate partnerships that are grounded in equality, respect, and authenticity. Key aspects of Lilithian relationships include challenging gender roles, setting boundaries, honest communication, and mutual empowerment. But what does it mean to truly challenge gender roles within a relationship? It means rejecting traditional expectations of masculinity and femininity, embracing gender fluidity, and allowing each individual to express themselves authentically without conforming to societal norms. Consider figures like Tilda Swinton or David Bowie, who defied gender conventions and embraced their unique identities, inspiring others to do the same. Why can't we all embrace a world that allows us to express who we truly are? Setting boundaries is another crucial aspect of Lilithian relationships, as it involves asserting one's needs and desires, refusing to tolerate disrespect, abuse, or manipulation. Are you constantly giving in to your partner's demands, sacrificing your own needs and desires in the process? What are the signs that you are being disrespected or manipulated? Perhaps you're being gaslighted, belittled, or controlled, all of which are clear indicators that your boundaries are being violated. No one wants to be used or taken advantage of, so it's essential to set your foot down and assert your worth. Speaking of honesty, how important is it to truly be honest? Honest communication is paramount in Lilithian relationships, fostering trust and intimacy through the open and honest expression of one's thoughts, feelings, and needs. Are you afraid to express your true feelings to your partner, fearing judgment or rejection? What is so important about honesty? Perhaps you're holding back out of fear, but by embracing vulnerability and sharing your authentic self, you can create a deeper and more meaningful connection. Remember, honesty will save lives and foster greater trust. Mutual empowerment is the final key, working together to make our lives better. Mutual empowerment involves supporting each other's personal growth, celebrating each other's successes, and challenging each other to become better versions of themselves. Are you actively supporting your partner's dreams and aspirations, or are you holding them back out of jealousy or insecurity? Help each other to become the best versions of yourselves, and remember to externalize blame and look inward. Be mindful of your own emotional triggers and patterns of behavior, taking responsibility for your actions and reactions. Externalizing blame damages and makes it impossible to grow. These aspects of Lilithian relationships resonate with concepts like conscious partnership, ethical non-monogamy, and relationship anarchy, all of which challenge traditional norms and embrace alternative models of connection. These are not conventional concepts, and you may not agree with all of them, but they offer valuable insights into the possibilities of creating more fulfilling and equitable relationships. Ultimately, Lilithian relationships are about mutual growth and empowerment, not control or domination, so remember that there needs to be mutual respect. Now that we've explored these key principles, what practical strategies can we employ to cultivate Lilithian relationships in our own lives? Moving beyond relationships, Lilith's energy can also be a powerful force in the realm of careers and creative business pursuits, helping us to break free from limitations and achieve our full potential, but we must heed the warnings of the past. How can we channel her rebellious spirit to challenge gender bias, assert our value, and create ethical businesses that align with our values? First, we need to break glass ceilings, challenging gender bias and discrimination in the workplace, and advocating for equal opportunities and fair treatment for all. Women have to rise to the top together, and Lilith's energy can empower women to challenge these biases and demand equal opportunities, and by doing so, they can create a more equitable and inclusive work environment for everyone. Secondly, we need to assert our value, negotiating fair salaries, promotions, and recognition for our contributions, and refusing to be undervalued or exploited. Don't be afraid to ask for what you deserve, and if you're being underpaid or overlooked, speak up and demand what you're worth. This means following our intuition and not just chasing the dollar. How does using Lilith as our guide help create better career changes than chasing a dollar? Is money all that matters? Perhaps it's time to prioritize our passions and values over financial gain. What's really going to make us happy? We also need to set ethical standards, adhering to ethical principles and avoiding businesses or practices that exploit others or harm the environment. Remember what we stated about ethics earlier in this video, because if you ignore ethics, then you are lost to greed. Instead, we need to create something of value, something that benefits others and makes the world a better place. And if you build it, they will come. So how can we ensure that our careers and businesses align with our ethical values? For each of these areas, it's important to consider safety as well as empowerment, remembering that true empowerment comes from a place of responsibility and ethical conduct. To be empowered is to be free, so listen and trust yourself. With the tools we've provided throughout this video, how can you start doing these projects and changing the world? Perhaps it's time to start that business you've always dreamed of, or to advocate for change in your workplace. Model yourself after someone else, if you can, finding inspiration in those who have paved the way and demonstrated ethical leadership. Remember, ethics, responsibility, and safe connections are all key aspects of this process, because with all of that, then we grow. But what happens if we ignore this advice and prioritize personal gain over ethical conduct? Let's consider a counterexample of someone who ignored these principles and failed as a result, perhaps by exploiting workers, deceiving customers, or engaging in unethical practices. See what can happen if you do not follow these rules. The consequences can be devastating, leading to financial ruin, reputational damage, and ultimately, a failure to achieve lasting success. The most important lesson in that case: connect and collaborate. It is okay to ask for help. By connecting with others and seeking guidance, we can create a supportive network that helps us to stay on track and avoid common pitfalls. So how can we ensure that we're building ethical and responsible careers and businesses, guided by Lilith's energy and a commitment to creating a more just and equitable world? Are you ready to take the leap and pursue your passions with integrity and purpose? Taking those actions will allow us to tread safely on our spiritual path that will be open for all to travel and help others in kind. But is it really possible to reach the divine without connecting with others and taking the safe steps we've discussed? It's a long journey and there are no shortcuts. What must you always do to protect and provide for yourself as you move forward? Perhaps it's time to connect with the collective mindset, drawing inspiration and guidance from those who have walked this path before us. Just as Jung emphasized the importance of the collective unconscious, we too must recognize the power of community in achieving spiritual growth. It takes a world to heal each other, so what are you waiting for? All our key points throughout this video will help you to grow in your own personal path, so we want to provide you all that we know. Remember, this is the road to help others, so they may continue and connect, and this is why we make these videos. But is there a best practice to help or follow to start on the journey with Lilith and not be harmed? First, it starts with the disclaimer to practice ethics, honesty, and everything we've discussed, so let's consider what may happen if you don't. Bad things will happen to bad people, so remember to always act with integrity and compassion. This journey is not about power or anything external, but about taking everything in stride and not letting any challenges or issues break your focus. This isn't about power or control, it is more about you, so don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Now, what could happen if we choose to ignore this history, and how does it potentially hurt the new journey that people will follow? What's truly at stake? A lot of people want to rewrite what happened and say this is the best way, but it isn't. What would happen to your connection? Maybe those dream portals will help us more, or maybe it is a test. What do you think? Speaking of those dream portals, as you grow, there are changes you might not see, and remember that empowerment starts from within. With all of that, you empower and help people. If we keep that in mind, that we are working toward helping others more than ourselves, all will work out for the best. So, what steps are required to take so you can start on your journey with Lilith? Perhaps the most crucial step is to explore your inner self and work with that, instead of externalizing, because the only way to make the world better is to get yourself right. What benefits are there for self-growth that make the outside better, and how does self-improvement connect with making external change? You improve yourself and improve the world. It is as simple as that. But what actions must be taken to understand this connection? Firstly, you have to take 100% responsibility for your life, recognizing that you can't blame others for your circumstances and that even being victimized is not a life sentence. The past is the past, so let's learn from it and move forward. Secondly, you need to take radical acceptance, accepting everything about the past and the present so that you can change the future. We cannot change if we don't see everything, so it's essential to embrace reality even when it's uncomfortable. Thirdly, you need to release the need to control, recognizing that you can only control yourself, not others. We want to guide and help people to a place of respect, but we can't force them to change, so we need to respect their autonomy and allow them to make their own choices. Finally, you need to embrace your darkness, recognizing that if you are honest with yourself about your dark side, it will lead to a greater sense of compassion. Let's all get to know ourselves and our darkness to heal it, because that will allow us to become more empathetic and understanding of others. So, what other issues do we need to face so that the change is for the better? There is no more running from the hurt, because running will never help. Now, what actions could come from ignoring this inner work, to the point where it becomes harmful to the viewer and others? Ignoring them causes real bad, and you will not grow, so it's essential to prioritize self-reflection and personal growth. And what other tips should one be told to always keep in mind so that they don't lose their inner focus to create positive outcomes? There are a lot of things, and you need to have them all, so it's essential to stay committed to your path and to seek guidance when needed. These things take time, and to show you the power of transformation, you must put in the hard work to make it work. The work will pay off if you continue on your journey. You must believe it to see it. What would Jung say about all this? What's Jung's interpretation of seeing the shadow self? And what actionable steps would Jung suggest? Use Jung's great insight and learn from the master. His archetypes of the collective unconscious and more will help the journey. So how does all of this help you become a better person and connect better? And have we helped provide an understanding and not tell you what to think? What have we done to help you in all of this? I hope we did a service. Remember that there are things you need to now start connecting with, that the key to freedom is out there and for you. The world is for you and free now, so embrace it. If you remember all these things from every part of this video, your journey to connect with freedom will be more powerful and bring change. Use that knowledge to change the world for the better. You are now ready and know that it takes commitment and growth to reach that end, to connect with that new power to make a safe space and great journey to grow. Remember, that takes time and commitment. So how do you keep all these things connected and ready to start the journey, reiterating all the things that were learned? Keep them and write them down so you can follow along. But is it easier if you are meant to follow this path in the end? And was there a set course you were supposed to follow? What if the ability to heal, create, and ultimately transform the world around you is not some external force, but a wellspring already residing deep within, simply waiting to be awakened and drawn upon? It's time to look inward, fellow seekers, for this journey has only just begun, and the path ahead requires not just knowledge, but the courage to tap into that untapped potential. Lilith, then, is not some demonic entity to be feared, but a catalyst, a mirror reflecting the power that was always yours to command. You have traveled far and wide throughout this video, braving uncomfortable truths, questioning long-held beliefs, and piecing together the fragmented history of a figure shrouded in mystery and misrepresentation, haven't you? This empowerment, this liberation, can't be granted by any deity, demon, or guru. It comes from recognizing, embracing, and expressing your authentic self. So how do we move beyond intellectual understanding and start putting these principles into practice, cultivating that inner strength and letting our true selves shine? It's easier than you might think to tap into this inherent potential. Now let's begin. What you believe, on a fundamental level, is your truth, shaping not just your perception of reality, but the very fabric of your existence. Consider the profound impact of belief on shaping our reality, drawing on concepts from psychology, spirituality, and quantum physics. The power of intention and visualization, combined with clear focus and unwavering conviction, can manifest your desired outcomes in ways that might seem almost miraculous. If you focus and never stop, no matter what challenges come your way, the results can ripple outward, shaping your world and the lives of those around you. Now, is it possible to rewrite past traumas, turning sources of pain into wellsprings of strength and wisdom, so that the individual is empowered, not defined, by their experiences? The key lies in understanding that those who wronged you, those who inflicted pain, were often doing the best they could with the limited knowledge and awareness they possessed at the time. People can only understand the world through the lens of their own experiences and understanding. Next, creating new boundaries, both internal and external, protecting yourself from further harm and asserting your right to be treated with respect and dignity becomes paramount. Remember, you can't fix others, only yourself. Attempting to control or change others is a futile endeavor that only leads to frustration and resentment. Finally, embrace your creative freedom, rewriting the narrative of your life and changing the path you are on so it empowers rather than defines you. This process, this alchemical transformation of trauma into triumph, can change your world forever and always, setting you on a course toward a more fulfilling and authentic existence, can't it? This connection to self-fulfilling prophecies highlights how your beliefs can influence your actions and shape your destiny. So choose your beliefs wisely, fellow seekers. Embrace the understanding that all is possible, for only the journey has begun, and the destination is limited only by the boundaries of your imagination. Now, do you remember the rituals and dream portals we discussed earlier in this video? And are you prepared to tap into their power to connect with the deeper realms of consciousness and manifest your desires? For those of you who have had experiences with these rituals, perhaps you have felt the veil between worlds thinning, the whispers of ancient wisdom guiding you on your path. Now, let's talk about some concrete steps for creating a community that will assist you as you journey forward. A safe and supportive network that will protect you and ensure all are safe on this new path. First and foremost, connect with like-minded people, seeking out local groups or online forums where you can safely and securely share your experiences and learn from others who resonate with your truth. Who do you trust to connect with on this incredible path? Next, focus on helping those around you, drawing upon the problems you have personally overcome to guide and uplift others on their own journeys. Remember, is that great power going to be used for evil or good? Because ultimately that's what matters here. Then, share your dreams for the future, articulating your vision for a better world and asking for help in bringing that vision into reality. What all have we talked about throughout this video, and what are some of your deepest, most cherished dreams for the future? What wonders could the power of the collective create if we all work together in harmony and mutual respect? And could we create world peace as we move on to this higher state? Finally, create actions with all of this and make it happen, so a new vision will come to reality as we work together. How can we come together in a way that honors both individual autonomy and collective well-being? And are we willing to choose peaceful solutions above all else? These actions should always connect to ethics, new beginnings, and strength. It should become a positive force in the world. However, it's important to acknowledge that building a better world and empowering others has never been easy, and there will inevitably be people who will want to challenge the power and the good that is being done. There are many evil people out there who will want to try and attack what you create, so prepare for it. We must go together, united to protect and care for ourselves as we navigate the challenges that lie ahead. Now, is there anything else that we should consider, anything else that would help the viewer connect better with people and fortify themselves against the forces of negativity and resistance? Remember, you can only grow by seeking greater knowledge and understanding. Let us reiterate the tools that we've given you so you can use them effectively on your path. The meditations we shared and the best path to look for, the dream journal and the amazing transformations it can unlock, and the new steps that are out there waiting to be discovered as you look to all corners to make sure nothing is missed. How can these tools be used in real life, and what is the path to growth? Show what has been seen before and remind the viewers so they can grow beyond their limitations, and then consider what could happen in any of the cases, both positive and negative. This leads to the ethical responsibility we discussed earlier, now doesn't it? Use all your power for good, taking into consideration the warnings that we have shared throughout this video, and ask yourselves if you have been practicing safe steps, if you know what to do in case of danger, and if all of that is in check, then you should be relatively safe. Tie all of this back to the importance of building a better world and finding yourself on that journey for freedom, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Can we get there, together, united in purpose and unwavering in our commitment to ethical conduct and personal growth? Remember that it all comes down to one final thing: helping others to go forth and never look back, empowering them to embrace their true potential and create a world that reflects their highest aspirations. Embrace all of that power and go and never return to your old self. Take the keys and never let go. We've talked about will help you have a clear goal, a clear vision, and the unwavering determination to make that vision a reality. But to do so effectively, let's turn once more to some of the more esoteric implications of following Lilith. Finally, with all these tools at your disposal, is there one final path that one must consider to use the knowledge for the best path to a better world? What must one truly consider to connect and help, let us turn to the most critical question of all. What is Lilith going to represent to all of you, the viewers, as you venture forth and use these tools to live your best life? What is your Lilith? It all needs to connect to everything that we have discussed in this video, and it has to make some type of logical sense for it to resonate with your own experiences and understanding. It has to always relate to safety, protecting you from harm, and it has to connect to how it grows, fostering personal evolution and expanding consciousness. What were the themes that we used throughout this journey, and how do they connect with your own life and your own potential? To reiterate, you have to use respect, honoring the inherent dignity and worth of every individual, so that it is not taken advantage of in any form or fashion to help those people stay as great as we hope for them to be. You want to not see them as a means to an end, but as fellow travelers on the path to enlightenment and empowerment. Now, are you ready to do what is necessary to take that next step and make that shift? Above all, make sure to always take ethics into consideration, guiding your actions and decisions to help those around you grow in a way that aligns with their highest potential. Ethical consideration is paramount now and always. What is that dream that you hold so dear, and how do you plan to get there, to get connected, to make it a reality? It is time for you to get it done, fellow seekers, and remember that the journey is the reward, not the destination. As we reach the culmination of this exploration, let's synthesize the various methods of connecting with the shadow, embracing the divine feminine, and transforming these elements into a powerful force for good in your community and the world. A beautiful picture, that is the key. By drawing upon your inner strength and acting in an ethical manner, you can create a new reality and a better world. All of these various components are interconnected and mutually reinforcing, working together as one huge, well-oiled machine to create something greater than the sum of its parts. It needs all of those things. It makes the key. Remember that the main thesis throughout this journey has been that you have the power to create a better world, both for yourself and for others, so make it a point to not forget this and tell your story, inspiring others to embrace their own potential. Always empower, always be honest. These are the keys that will unlock your true potential and guide you on your path. To understand this, you also need to look at all the things in a clear picture. There are a lot of things, and you can learn them all, and that's what helps us have a clear view of how we want to get there. Now, let's all help and teach each other, because together we can create a better world for all. To follow your heart, you will never fail, because now you have been given the path, the tools, and the knowledge to make your dreams a reality. The road is now ready. What does your intuition say? As we draw together the many threads of Lilith's story, traversing through ancient mythologies, religious interpretations, and modern feminist perspectives, we begin to truly appreciate the layers of complexity enshrouding this enigmatic figure. We've journeyed through the dark and bright aspects of Lilith, navigating her demonization and celebrating her empowerment. Now let's synthesize what we've unveiled on Lilith, as we understand all that we've come to learn about her, not just as a historical figure, but as a symbolic force that has resonated through the ages. Yet, this is only one loop in the grand dreamscape, one facet of the many worlds and dimensions out there for us to explore. We've seen her as a Mesopotamian demon, a rebellious wife who defied Adam, a Kabbalistic force of chaos and creation, and a feminist icon reclaiming female autonomy. Though the source changes, power runs through each interpretation, an undeniable thread connecting these seemingly disparate portrayals. Patriarchy uses her and abuses her to its own means, twisting her narrative to suppress female agency and reinforce its dominance. But her name has been dragged through the mud by patriarchy, obscuring her true nature as a powerful symbol of female strength, independence, and the reclaiming of the feminine divine. We asked at the start, is she a distortion, a fabrication of patriarchal anxieties projected onto a powerful female figure? The answer to that question is clear. She is both demonized and divine, a reflection of humanity's complex relationship with female power. The story is only there because the patriarchy feared her power, her independence, and her refusal to submit. Now we can help spread a better view and understanding, dispelling the myths and reclaiming her true essence. The divine feminine has been suppressed to cause imbalances, and Lilith stands as a symbol of that suppression, but also of the potential for its restoration. Lilith is one piece of the puzzle to help empower women, a reminder that female strength and independence have always been feared and suppressed. Challenging the beliefs that demonize female power is essential to becoming better and creating a more equitable society. Relate to past topics, and that she will become a key figure with what has been taken over. Women have been suppressed, controlled, and abused. Take your power and heal. This goes for everyone, not just women. This story connects and repeats in others, across different cultures and throughout history, highlighting the enduring struggle for female liberation. I hope that you understand all that has come today, all the historical context, symbolic interpretations, and feminist perspectives that we've explored. Take this knowledge and create a great new life, free from the constraints of patriarchal narratives and empowered to embrace your true self. What is the journey you see, and how will you use this understanding to shape your own life and the world around you? Never give up, always connect, and you will reach the top, empowering yourself and others to create a more just and equitable world. Lilith is the power within. Embrace her and heal yourself, reclaiming your autonomy and defying the constraints of societal expectations. What does Jung connect to? What archetypes does she embody? And how can we use these archetypes to understand ourselves better? Create the new world so that everyone can understand what must be done. A world that is always fair, just, and equitable for all. If you connected with the video, and if you found value in this exploration of Lilith's story, what does it look like for you to engage further with this topic? What did you like about it? And would you want more explorations of other suppressed figures and alternative perspectives? Share your thoughts and share what you think. How has she been to you, and how can you use her to create yourself? We are always looking for new things, new avenues to explore, and new stories to tell. Connect to start your journey and join our community of seekers as we continue to unravel the mysteries of the esoteric and challenge the narratives of the mainstream. It all connects for the better to come as we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves, our history, and the forces that shape our world. Follow the journey, stay connected, and grow to reach the best and new version, embracing your full potential and contributing to a more enlightened and equitable future. We hope to connect, and for you to start and never be back, embarking on a path of continuous growth and transformation. Is there a way to share the wisdom to protect so that it keeps going, ensuring that these suppressed stories are never forgotten and that the lessons they hold are passed on to future generations?